Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another special stream. This time, today we have the second installment of our WarmeCritic series. Best efforts. It looked like for a second that my hadn't updated with the title, but maybe it had, so much better. Today is featuring TheMadWasp, who's been top runner for a long time, probably the better part of a year. Currently in top of the leaderboards. Again, with this WarmeCritic series, basically what I'm looking at is I'm looking at another player's run and just providing feedback surrounding that. Again, I always do this with the runner's permission. A lot of times either they volunteer or I'll ask or things too if they're just for tips and tricks. And again, this certainly isn't because I have all the answers or because I would do things better than they would necessarily. In fact, it's probably largely the opposite. I sort of feel like my skill plateau for the last few months, where a lot of the other runners have improved quite significantly. But really, just as a matter of, like anything, the best way to improve. Hey, good morning, A1. The best way to improve is always by kind of taking a look and maybe getting some other feedback. And I found with the last one of these that I did, we were able to identify a couple of things that the runner did where he's like, oh yeah, I guess I do that, or I kind of use this old strat, and then just saying, but a couple weeks later he got a PB. So I think there is some value in this, not only for the runners themselves, but really for all the runners in our community, and for myself too. Sometimes it's nice to really take an in-depth look at what other runners do, sort of see, if we kind of mesh together ways as a community. So that's good. Papa Smurf. So again, without any further ado, this is MadWasp's run. Again, he doesn't have his video, or he doesn't have his face, or he doesn't say a whole lot in the video. So it'll be sort of me in the bottom left corner of your screen. Again, this is his gameplay, his splits, and again, I think he talks. I don't think he talks. I have not actually seen this run. That's the other thing. It'll truly be sort of a first impressions, and then again we can talk about, like, if I see something that he did that maybe it ends up being right, maybe wrong. So we could sort of talk about, like, at first glance. Really, with this, I'll try to avoid anything. I'll try to avoid talking much about anything that was like an obvious mistake, like a misclick. I mean, we all make those. Those are all things that we rather try to see, again, is there a certain pattern of behavior that, or pattern of decisions that he makes that maybe, could be improved, or maybe something that could benefit from. Happy birthday, by the way, Papa Smurf. 15th birthday. There you go. You're getting old like me. Before you know it, you'll be half my age. So, birthday to you. Yeah, again, without any further ado, this will be MadWasp's run, and I will be providing some commentary. It did look like the game's audio is like a little bit low, but that's probably okay for this type of series. Again, this is the first impressions, so go without any further ado. So again, the last one of these was for A1 Major, again, another top runner for a long time. So value out of this. Oh, he must have clicked out of the screen. No game audio. Oh, that's weird. There must have been some frame drops or something, but there we go. To present this, MadWasp actually did send me the file. I think it was like a 23 gigabyte file that we had to sort of find a way to transfer. That was a little bit dramatic, but he did get this over to me. I don't think this has been featured on his channel, and again, this is the first time that I'm looking at the run as well. I'm always like torn. Exactly like should I look through the run and sort of like go level by level and then kind of read off my comments? But honestly, I think it's better to do it as like a first impressions kind of thing, because that way we can sort of talk about, like, all right, what do I notice in advance that's good, or how do we I guess honestly that this may end up being a PB. I don't necessarily think it was. He probably would have submitted that, but again, we'll see what goes well in the run. 1-1, obviously not a lot of commentary about. The one level where strategy has not changed in the last 2 years. Not a whole lot to do other than pretty good time. 51. We both use the same splitting method, so that'll actually kind of be good for my sake, because it's nice to be able to compare apples to apples. Usually about a 52.5 is. For starters, I do like the way that you plant you plant those sunflowers very quickly. That's one thing I've noticed that I can maybe improve by about like 1/10 of a second time. You know, it requires some precise mouse movement. Well, of course, you know, goof that one a little, but I'd say overall that's very good. You know, it's important to plant that very. A little bit of bad RNG, right? Oh, okay. Not pretty. I think with this one, you know, again, you theoretically could have put, this is my actual mouse cursor right here. Theoretically could have put it right there. It's a little bit more aggressive. You maybe could have saved 1/3 of a second. You know, then again, you risk taking a little bit of damage. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I do think that it's the right decision to put this one here in advance, just because. But there's always the risk that you get the same, you know, you get the same thing back to back. I would place that basically right away. That fourth, I wouldn't hesitate, because there's virtually 100% chance that one of the 2 zombies is that second row. Not that you're really waiting on much anyway, but yeah, that's good. And it is good to wait to plant the 5th pea shooter at, just so you know for sure, you know, which 2 rows coming in. Yeah, this has been a good, you know, very smooth level. I like the huge wave of zombies appearing before the 150 mark, using our timing. That tends to mean that the level's going to go pretty well, I think. Take like 30 minutes over the whole run. So, you know, I mean, honestly, you know, that's like, it's not that's not completely unrealistic. There's obviously like there's RNG factors that go along to it, and sometimes you're waiting on sun anyway, so like, you know, not a big difference. But I mean, it does, you know, it does add up. You know, again, if you consider we certainly plant probably several hundred sunflowers over the course. So, you know, even whether it's you know, even if it's a, you know, a couple of frames or 1/10 of a second, you know, that really does make a difference. Good to be pretty quickly. Again, obviously, with anything, the quicker you go, sometimes the more you risk, you know, making mistakes. So it's always tough to find that balance. Certainly, making decisions is far more important than, you know, being quick with sun placement. But it does all add up. Oh, hey, Dot. Well, welcome. Yep, yeah, confidence with early placements, I think, is, you know, I mean, confidence in general is certainly huge. Certainly something I don't think MadWasp struggles with. It always stinks when it takes a while for that second one to. I'm curious to see what you're actually going to do with this first zombie, because it does look like, if anything, he might be a little bit too slow. So there's sort of a few different ways that you could deal with this. I think it's okay to place an 8th sunflower here. I kind of like the decision to place the 2nd pea shooter, although it's going to be, again, yeah, it's going to be, okay, this is actually all right. I was going to say it was going to be interesting if you'd gotten, and maybe you just would have reset if you'd gotten the cone head in that 2nd row. It's be tight, but I actually think you're okay here. You know, maybe you should have waited a second, because it did look like the game was confused about where to send that that cone head, but we'll see. But I think you'll be okay, and you probably shouldn't get any more zombies in the middle row. But yeah. So again, in hindsight, yeah, I think I would have taken the cowardly route, and in this case, it would have paid off by planting the sunflower right there to stall him just a little bit. Because even if you didn't necessarily catch a zombie in that row, you would have if the first zombie doesn't proc the lawnmower till the 5th wave, then you guarantee that no more zombies will appear in this row until the final wave. So, and honestly, you kind of had to wait a little bit anyways for the cherry bomb to reappear. But I think it would have ended up saving you maybe a second or so to plant. Maybe not a second, but maybe, you know, however long it took between this cherry respawning and level. So maybe a slight mistake there. Again, I wouldn't harp too much on it. Again, 1-3 can be one of the more RNG based levels in the entire run, plus the day levels. But I do think you should have stalled him. I knew it was going to be close because it looked like you also got a bad roll, the 50% rule, because basically it took not only you killing the zombie, i.e. him losing his head, but it took him like needing to fall down and basically lose all of his hit points in order for the 50% rule to be satisfied. So again, the strategy you're using here is one that I've seen you know, a couple of the top runners begin to use. Personally, I don't like it. I think it's worth the risk this early in the run to plant your first 3 plants in the middle row. You know, and then again, you can choose between either resetting or just using a pea shooter if you do happen to get the zombie in that row. I just don't like losing one of those early sunflowers. It does end up sort of cutting your sun production over the course of the level by maybe like, you know, 10 or 15% or something like that. So it's kind of, you know, it's more a matter of sort of, are you willing to take the risk versus reward this early in the run? And honestly, I think it's worth it. Again, not a huge deal, but you know, for example, if you had, you know, you might have been able to make better use. Yeah, again, it's going to be tough to make good use of the final wave. Although in this case, it'll kind of end up working out. So honestly, if there hadn't been a sunflower there, he would have hit that lawnmower right away. And again, it's always tough to like know exactly. Yeah, he did it because of you. So again, clearly he learns from the best, David. No question. So personally, I still don't like it. This sucks. So what I would do here, again, it's tough whether you use. I think the cherry is worth it overall, although with not having enough sun right away, it can be kind of tough. What I've sometimes done actually is put like one pea shooter right here, or 2 pea shooters right there, and let them get eaten. So that way you can still use one of the lawnmowers in the bottom row and have a slightly easier final wave. I do think overall that's worth it. Oh, you've gotten some pretty bad luck on this level getting that cone head in row, but yeah, it's just tough. You know, you're kind of setting yourself up for a little bit of a tough final wave. I really don't know if there's tons you could have done about it. Yeah, I think I would have done the same thing. Basically, now at this point, it's worth just putting as many pea shooters as you can in these top 2 rows, and then just basically resigning yourself to the fact that I don't think that one was worth it. That row, I would have probably put it in the second row, top row. Hey, Master, welcome. Yeah, I guess you could put a pea shooter or 2, but honestly, I probably would have just really unloaded my pea shooters in the top row. And then just put a cherry in the bottom here, yeah, because it's gonna be so difficult. Again, if you'd had like 4 pea shooters here and like 3 here, again, you kind of got unlucky there. It would have been tough. This is one of those levels that I think you kind of just got trolled a little bit. 324 is not bad. Again, just you know, these are more my opinions. You know, it's hard to tell in hindsight. Again, speaking of just good reactions, again, very very quick movement with your mouse there for the shovel. So, far so good with these. Yeah, I agree with using it in that row. Yeah, you get the nice bounce. Yeah, in the bottom row here. Yep, very good. Start. Zombie in the top row is a little bit fast, but you can deal with him a bit later. I might have actually put that second one right here and hope that you got a bounce, gotten a little bit more value out of that. You know, or again, yeah, putting it in the top row, because I think that's going to be a little bit fast. I do, given that you had 2 exploded nuts here, I think that was worthwhile. Now, again, you can use the lawnmowers in both the top and bottom. And very slight preference, it would have been a little bit better to do this bottom row first, given that he was kind of fast and there's a chance you could have gotten a 2-for-1. Love the exploded nut there, that's definitely the right play. And I a lot of times get kind of greedy with this, and I do go for the Explodonut right here, just figuring you're probably going to get 4 or 5 more walnuts, and you're going to need to deal with all of these zombies eventually anyway. We'll see if that actually pays off or not. Yeah. So you did get the extra Explodo, so it wouldn't have been a huge time save, but yeah, definitely throw the Explodo there. And this is a great level. I think my gold for this is like 333. So, and you could have been very, very close to that if you had. Again, and I think that was a matter of that was a matter of very good execution. Like, you definitely got a few more Explodonuts than maybe average, but I think we can chalk that one up mostly to playing really well. That was. I do think your column here, starting with this second row is. I don't personally see the benefit of that. I think either go with the go with the top row and just and sort of focus on that speed, or if you're going 1, 2, 3, I just don't quite understand that early placement. Maybe that was just a slight misclick, but again, I think now, especially that you have the potato mine, it really pays off to put the first 3 zombies, or put the first 3 sunflowers in this row. I really just think that's much better. I love having the opportunity to get back-to-back, either getting the first or second row, the 4th and the 5th row, or the 1st and the 5th row taken care of for the final wave. It can really save a lot of time. Now it looks like you're probably not going to be able to either the 1st or the 5th rows at all in preparation for the final wave. So. That said, you're still in good position. The zombie was pretty slow. So again, I actually think this is maybe the first, I would say, overtly strong mistake of the run. You're almost definitely going to need a pea shooter in this top row, and I think you could have put your pea shooters in the top row and not worried about this middle row, actually gotten some use out of the lawnmower. So yeah, so I'd say that was a mistake. I don't know if that was just, again, a misclick or something you weren't thinking of, but that was a mistake. What I would have done here, actually, again, I would have planted that sooner, because you had the 175 sun that you needed. Although I don't think it's going to make that much difference. You just might have gotten your potato mine off cooldown just a little bit quicker. Yeah, in row 3, yeah, YMB saying the same thing, that he plants them all in the first 3 row because you have the potato mine, and I agree with that personally. I think a little better to put it there. Slightly slower reaction time. You also theoretically could have waited. Again, kind of bad luck getting the cone head there, but inevitably, you're gonna get a cone head somewhere. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't have hesitated there. I think you're more valuable. I think it's more valuable to put the pea shooter there and then basically accept that you're going to have to put the cherry here or here. And that actually makes sense, because you're really not going to put the cherry here if you have a potato mine here. So I think it would have been better to, as quickly as you could have, put the pea shooter right there and finish that wave a little bit quicker. Yep, again, I'm glad you did that, because again, you'll usually get something right behind in that row. Yep, middle row is definitely the winner. Yeah, if you can get one more pea shooter. Technically, you could place that pea shooter a little bit closer. Not a huge deal, and that's something I don't always necessarily think of either. But yeah, 316 is okay for that level. It's really hard to get a sub 3. It's as both A1 and I have said, it's a little bit finicky. Again, I don't know if I agree with this second row thing going on here. So what I do for this level actually is I plant the first 3 in this row, because it really doesn't matter which row place them in, because there's 2 flags. So it's not like you can create this like fancy setup for the final wave. So I think it's better to plant the first sunflowers in this row, and then kind of play it from there. You can either plant the potato mine if the first zombie appears in this row, or let them go if you can. I feel like you've lost a couple of sunflowers in here that were maybe a little bit unnecessary. Sunflower placement because of comfort, again, that there's certainly something to be to be said for that too. Like, we all sort of like develop our habits, but I think one thing. Ooh, so there's a little bit of a risk here. You planted this potato mine in such a way that if a zombie appears in this row, it's probably going to get eaten. My rule of thumb is if the pea shooter has done two damage to the zombie in question, you do have enough time for the potato mine to arm entirely. But if he's done 3 or more, you usually don't have enough time. This is kind of tough. So what I would have done actually is I would have planted the I don't like that, so I would have planted a pea shooter right away and then tried to sneak in the potato mine or the walnut right at the last second. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of tough. Curious how you back to this. And might have technically been better to get that pea shooter up first. Yeah, you're definitely going to need a second one, so I think your prioritization stay there. But again, this has all been a little bit messy. You've definitely gotten some bad RNG with where the zombies have appeared in these first few, and I actually am glad that you saved that. Comfortable overspeed. I mean, there is something to be said to that. So it's said for that. Or by cast Cure 4 and cast Nuke. This is good though. I've liked these. I like these last 2 waves. I think you've kind of done the best that you can. Now that said, I like being a little bit closer to like anything sub 3 in the first flag is okay. I do like being a little bit closer to like the 3-5, but I do think that vaults are kind of screwed too. So again, I don't think there's a lot that you could have done. It's kind of a funny looking layout. I also like your decision not to use a cherry bomb here. I think that was good, considering that you were going to get some real value out of that potato mine. Much better to save the cherry here. So that's exactly the idea. You would have been. I think you would have been, in a lot of trouble if you had the 2 cone heads appearing there. It would have been a very, very slow 11th wave. So I think your play for the last couple minutes here, I think, is very strong. I don't think I welcomed you, by the way, Hyro Fellows, so welcome. I think this is okay. Yeah, it was probably better to add a little bit extra firepower to this row just to start whittling. You've gotten a lot of vaulters. It must be because A1's in chat. You got the Olympics retroactive. That right away. You're right in that bottom spot. Actually, you could have used that just a little bit sooner. The hit detection is very odd for those vaulters. Like, it is possible to plant the cherry too early, but not quite. And you do have about a second of time for the cherry to sort of arm itself. But overall, again, I'd say that this has been good. I actually don't like the decision to plant the potato mine here. This is something I've seen a couple of runners do recently. And again, you're much better off just sort of saving it for either the top row or the bottom row. Given that this was the 19th wave, there's going to be no value whatsoever in having the potato mine right here because, wherever you place your cherry mine in the final wave, it's going to be where it is. I would have planted either top row or bottom row. You can see, especially if you planted in the bottom row, you would have gotten huge value out of that. So instead, you would have been able to plant the cherry up here. So instead, you're sort of, kind of catching up a little bit. So again, just a reminder about that potato mine placement on the 19th wave like that. So. Spawn, the spawn speed and the position the next zombie spawn, it can vary a lot. So YMB brings up a good point when we're talking about like, when do you plant? So again, in contrast in this row, and again, if you're comfortable kind of doing the 1, 2, 3, and you don't mind losing early sunflower, that's okay. But I do like loading up the middle row right here because again, it can be, because this is a 1 flag level, it's very important to really be able to get the best value possible out of the final wave. And in this case, it pays off. But again, there's going to be a 3 out of 5 chance that you're going to lose one of these sunflowers, and I just don't think it's that great. With the potato mine, it's not that costly if you have to kill the first zombie with a potato mine. And again, there is something to be said for comfort and repetition. You don't want to be like thinking about, oh god, what do I do? What do I do? But again, maybe trying to develop some new habits. I think I really think there's value in that. I like this decision. And now, honestly, even if you have to lose the sunflower in the top, it's and I do like the decision. Been a little quicker with that sunflower, but again. Now you're going to have a good potato mine placement. Obviously, we are going to get. So honestly, what I would have done is rather than planting the sunflowers here, I would have started planting the sunflowers here in the 4th row. Given that, again, if the next zombie, well, in this case, yeah, you would have had to chomper him anyway. But if you'd gotten a couple of regular zombies, those zombies would have been able to reach the end by the time you got the final wave. So it would have been okay to. I think the chomper in this row would have been better because at least you had a piece here. And you're gonna have to do something against these. Yeah, I really don't like this. Yeah, I really don't like this. I think that chomper there was a fairly big mistake. And maybe you realize that, and so maybe it's not. It's always easier to look at these hindsight a little bit, but yeah, you're just in a pretty tough position now. Yeah, this is really tough. So, yeah, again, I think there were really a couple of things that kind of contributed to this. I think the biggest mistake was that chomper right there. Even though in hindsight it would have gotten eaten because there was another zombie that appeared in that 4th row, it would have been a lot better to be able to react. And I think maybe your plan was, oh, I'll just plant a potato mine somewhere in the back. But those potato mines are also very valuable for the row. Although this final wave was pretty good too. Yeah. 308 is kind of a tough time for this one. Really, there shouldn't be too many 1/8s that end up in the 3. So yeah, again, I think between the sunflower placement and just again, I didn't like the placement of that chomper. I didn't necessarily think that was the right move. I think some of those things kind of caught up to you, and then again, pretty bad RNG with the 9th wave had right there. Again, that was sort of like kind of the sum of what had happened. So, again, I'd say 1/8 was maybe the weakest level so far, but I don't think notoriously your 1/8s are that bad. So, and it's not a huge thing necessarily. Just some feedback, Again, these are all my opinions. It's very difficult to say, oh, if you had done this and this and this, it can be hard sometimes to look even a couple waves in advance, much less like sort of what the impact would be of planting all your sunflowers in the same row and what that would look like for the level. In this level, it can be okay to plant the walnut this year early. I do like letting the zombie get a little bit into this final column, because that way, again, if you do get a cone head here, there's a little bit less time wasted there. But oh yeah, Aaron. Yeah, that's another strategy too. And again, I think it's with some of these things, it can be. We sort of try to like look at the averages and say, okay, on average, what's going to be the best. And there has been a lot of trial and error. I don't love the idea necessarily of waiting too long to plant the first sunflower, because like that potentially that sort of has a bit of a snowball effect. It can set you back a little bit, but it's not that it's necessarily wrong. That's just goes. Yep. The chomper here I think is very good, and eventually that chomper, I think you'll be able to get a second use out of him, which. This is good. You're gonna get huge value out of this. Yeah, I like that there. And this should speed along, but you can see if this zombie had been a little bit farther ahead, you would have been able to proc that 50% roll just a little bit quicker. I'd say it's very rare that you end up using 2 or 3, you know, walnuts on the same level. But the other thing is, again, if you're planting a walnut that early, you can sort of wait to plant the second walnut. But this was a very, very good first flag. Again, I like being in the low 140s, like you were. This has been a very strong flag for you, I would say. I'm expecting you know, could probably get a pretty good. So I wouldn't have done that, only because you were almost certainly going to kill that the cone head with that potato mine. Given that the wave had already kind of, this has actually been, I definitely plant. Given that you have this much sun, I would definitely plant a potato mine relatively quickly, and then again you'd still be able to that chomp. Yeah, I think if you planted that potato mine more quickly, you actually would have gotten use of it for that bucket head. So very, very slight, you know, kind of maybe difference of this one's a little bit tough. I think what I would have done was dug up the chomper right there and used another one, just because the bulk of the 50% rule was on that row right there, and I didn't think you necessarily needed a second repeater in this row. I didn't think that was quite as valuable. If you'd had enough for a cherry instantly, that might have been worth it for this one, but again, be surprised that your sun situation is a bit low here. I agree with this. Yeah, okay. You took a chance there, but I actually think you were going to be pretty close to the 50% rule. Yeah, I like this only because you're going to get value out of that in the throw. In theory, what you could have done if you were looking to be a little bit more aggressive was hoped that that potato mine armed, which it would have, and then just dug up that chomper and used a chomper in that row. I think you could have been a little bit quicker in that next to final wave, but in sort of in hindsight, your setup for this final wave is much better. So what I would have done is put, oh wow, he actually he rearmed it too. That's nice. I think I wouldn't have guessed that would have rearmed, and I would have planted a chomper right here. Needed to use a second chomper at the top, so my final wave would have. But again, that was a very, very, very good level. Any sub 5-minute time is great, and it looks like you got about a 450, 451, which is very strong. Really, really no. All right, some nice garbage to start off your 110. That's what we'd like to see. So I actually do like 1.9 as well, YMB. I'd say it's up there in terms of some of my favorite levels. Yeah, I think you had to. It really sucks, but I think you had to do that. Ugh, 3 walnuts to start this. That is just ugly. I think what I would have done when that potato mine had appeared, I just would have guessed one of the rows and just planted it relatively early, just sort of knowing that like it was looking like your 50% rule was not going to be very happy at that time. I think this is going to be close. Yeah, okay, I think you're going to be okay, but that gave me some. I don't think I would have done anything differently necessarily. I might have been a little bit more patient there and seen if there was going to be but again, it sucks using all these cherry bombs this early. But I think so far your decision is pretty good. It's a matter of some bad RNG. Like this, they're starting to give you some repeaters now, so that this will hopefully make up for for what was kind of a sluggish start. I would have used the cherry bomb instantly there. I don't think there was any reason. Play. It was going to be guys. It is nice to have some cherry bombs for the 9th wave like this, but again, I think in this case it wasn't the 9th wave apparently. Counting, not great. Very nice to get a. Oh damn. Yep. You might have actually, given that you knew you were going to clear out this row, it might have been worth planting another repeater a little bit. So you might have been able to do that potato. Not a huge deal, especially given that you really want the bulk of your firepower to be in the top and the bottom row, given that the cherries have a lot more value. Always tend to end up, affecting some of the middle rows and stuff. I think this is okay. Definitely all right to load up a little bit of firepower. This is a lot of repeaters. This is pretty good. I'd say your luck with cherries has been, maybe a little below average, if anything, but these repeaters should really speed along. Definitely a cherry. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yep. Anytime you see 2 bucket heads, that should be like instant cherry if you have one. There's almost, yeah, like the bottom row there. Like, just no reason to hold off, especially if it's 2 bucket heads in the same row. That's like, you know, that like is like the majority of your 50% rule right there. Yep, good to hold off. I like the decision off in this wave. That was good. I think it's okay, given that you had 2. It's probably okay. Although you're coming up against the 9th wave, so yeah, you know, it might have been a little better to use a cherry in this wave than the previous wave, but it's also, like, very difficult to know that, so I would use a cherry here, just given that this zombie from the prior wave kind of blocked it off. I think this one's going to be a bit on the slow side, but maybe you wanted to save it for the 9th wave, which is okay, yeah. Alright, so in hindsight, we would have flipped some cherries, and who knows what it would have come out to, but again, I think the play has been very good here. You should get sub 4 minutes for sure. You know, the game was nice and gave you cherries. I think you waited a little bit long. It doesn't quite take the zombies that long to end up there, but you know, 31-18 for the day levels is definitely pretty good. I really do think it could have been sub 31 with just a couple of adjustments, particularly to 1-8 and the other one 1-6. Again, you know, I think, you know, again, you know, one little mishap with the chomper there, and again the sunflower placements. I'm just not 100% convinced yet that's always going to be the way to go. I mean, there's sort of, you know, do you value like the security of knowing that you're only going to lose 1 sunflower over the aggression of that? All right, we'll see you later, Papa Smurf. Happy birthday. Thanks for tuning in. No, but that's definitely a tough one. But again, I do think there's some value. So when you're planting these early puff shrooms, I usually will plant one of the first 2 in these rows. Given that, again, if you don't, sometimes you end up with this awkward situation. Zombie appears here, you really can't plant it here, but then it's a little bit slow going in this row. So I think you should prioritize this row over, again, some of these rows that really like aren't much of a threat at all and that have that 7th column open available. So YMB, if you want, if you'd like a WarmeCritic, I'm happy to give it. Again, that would be an example of the apprentice trying to train the Jedi Master. But if you'd like one, we could definitely add you to the list. I had one other person request a WarmeCritic that I'm probably going to do either in December or January. But if you'd like a WarmeCritic and see if I can find any faults with your play at all, which I'm sure I'm not going to be able to, but that's what we got. Pretty good. Again, since that issue with the bottom row, I've liked your decisions so far in level. I think you've handled those pretty well. Again, it may look a little bit excessive to have a lot of zombies in that second row like you do, but I honestly think that's okay. It helps deal with the final wave. And I like the decision to use a regular zombie there. I just wish you'd been able to find a way to get one more puff shroom in this row right here. I think that would have been at the end of the world. I think you're gonna cherry right here. Cherry there. So I actually think you should have prioritized planting a puff shroom right here. And this, right after that, a potato mine detonated. If you prioritized a puff shroom there, you would have been able to do a little bit more damage to that zombie. So, again, a couple little adjustments to that level. I wouldn't say it was great, but done very well with your plant selection so far, too. They're part of my run where... Yeah, again, I do think it makes more sense to put one of the early puff shrooms if you have a layout like this right here. Again, it's just, you know, if you get, it's like I'll pause just for a second. It's like if the first zombie appears here, like you're a little bit screwed. Because if you plant a puff shroom right here, it's almost certainly going to be eaten. Like a 90% chance. But if you plant the puff shroom right here, you're going to have to wait. And if it's a slow zombie, it's going to actually take a long time before you start doing damage. I really think prioritizing this row is better. And again, if the first zombie does appear in this row, you can just plant a second one back here, and you're still going to be okay for some of the next couple. Oh, YMB with the drop. He has a world record run that hasn't been uploaded. Oh boy, oh boy, a huge drop. That would be an interesting WarmeCritic if someone gave me a run that was a world record or something. Funny. Well, congrats, YMB. I hope you cracked the 224. That's been the milestone for a little bit. So yeah. See, I just you know, it's just I think it's much better to have one of those first few row for that reason exactly. And it's not like a huge time loss, but I really think it does make it. Some might have seen it during your stream. Yep. Sometimes, YB, you're streaming while I'm asleep, or you're streaming while I'm at work. So being on opposite sides of the world doesn't help me catch too many of yours. But I've seen a couple of them, and sometimes I'll do that. I think sub 320. That's like I think that's like the absolute maximum. See, I would have done the same thing with this. Theoretically, if you somehow could have gotten it a little bit sooner, but I thought it was actually going to arm. I thought you were going to get that one, but not quite. No such luck. With this new potato, I would have probably planted it in either the top row or the middle row. You could have been a little bit quicker about that, like right as that first zombie died, but I think so. We're actually going to gear out here. And that fourth row is definitely the priority for you. That said, these grave placements aren't awful. You still have pretty good chomper spots. You have good cherry spots. So dealing with the dealing with the bucket heads in the second row isn't going to be in the second wave isn't going to be too bad. And I think you had like a 330 or 230 something in the first flag. So this has been a very strong level so far. Really not a lot I would have changed about this, other than just that very first. Oh no, it should be number 2. I gotta switch that. Actually, because I'm not the one that's actually. I can do that. Wow, look at me with all the multitasking. Run does not suffer. There we go. This should be much happier. Thanks for the catch, YMP. Oh, I said number. I was thinking number 2, but ended up just as number 1. But anyway, things have been pretty good, I would say, on the second flag. No major mistakes. You probably should be planting these puff shrooms. Like again, if you'd gotten 1 more puff shroom or 2 more puff shrooms here, this 50% rule, it just would have been, maybe a second faster. But I can see you were kind of focused on the bottom row, so just some very slight adjustments here. I'm always, and it's hard for all of us to do, but really these puff shrooms should never be off cooldown for the most part, even if you have to plant them in a 9th column or something like that. There's really a lot of value. Yep. I might have chompered this guy, although you do have the 2 there. So I think this is okay. I would definitely try to get one of the, yeah, I do like, you didn't get a lot of bucket heads, so it was nice to be able to get a second row of repeaters there. I do think that there's, I do like that you do that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put them in this row, but I actually think you're right that it's more valuable to put the second repeaters right here, so that's good. Definitely a great cherry spot right here. Chomper right at the end. Very good. This has been a fantastic level. Yeah, 445 is. I forget what my gold is, but I know it's in the 440s, so that was very good. But that said, I actually do think it could have even been just a couple seconds faster if you'd been maybe just a little bit more attentive to some of the cooldowns of the puff shrooms in the second flag, and then again just that very first puff shroom placement. Again, you're going to need a puff shroom there eventually anyway, so there's really no harm in planting an early puff shroom. Again, same thing right here. Again, I think this row is the priority over over this row. So if this, yeah, again, yeah. So, you know, I have not seen this before. This is not, this is not me playing Monday morning quarterback or something. This is, again, I'd say this is something, we talk about recurring things, right? So like this ended up being kind of a waste. Instead, you could have had a puff shroom here and here, build the wave faster, and still been in no worse a position than you are right now. So again, when we're doing WarmeCritic, again, I try to look for things that kind of are recurring issues or something that I see a couple of times that I think may be sort of just something that's like more of a habit. And I know for most of us, like, oh, you plant 1, 2, 3, like we do in the fog levels and things like that. But I really do think that, again, if you have the 7th column taken by a grave and the 8th column's open, it's really important to plant some of those early puff shroom in because again, you're always going to be able to, later on, after that zombie appears, you're going to be able to plant one in the 6th row, so you don't need to worry about losing that puff shroom. But yeah, I think that's what we got. So yep, I actually liked your decision to plant a potato mine here. I usually don't agree with potato mines in the 8th column. Like they feel like kind of a waste, but in this case, I like you was feeling very confident that the potato mine was right there. So that was a good. It's okay to have a fume here. Again, I don't love it because you're not, I think the fumes in 3, so I actually would have planted a puff here and the fume here. Given that, for the final wave, it's nice to have. So I think I would have played this one differently too. I think I would have planted the potato mine right here and basically just guaranteed the fact that I was going to plant the cherry bomb right here and tried to get all of the trouble that was right here. I also would have had the fume shroom right here, another puff right here, and then basically just tried to plant a couple extra puff shrooms in the back in case you got some cone heads in those rows. Yep, so another thing, given that this cherry took so long to plant, yeah, you actually should have dug up this a lot sooner because you've had this, not sure what you're doing here. Like, he's almost dead. You gotta kill him. Yeah, so I'll chalk this up to a mistake. Okay, yeah, this was probably the most problematic level. Just again, trying to go over some of the mistakes. I think your fume shroom position, tongue twister, was not great there. I would have planted that one space farther back so you could have gotten one more puff shroom. I would have planted the potato mine in that bottom row, and I would have used the cherry much earlier and tried to plant some more puff shrooms in the back to be able to better deal with those cone heads. Now, you did get unlucky that the 2 farthest forward graves had the two cone heads on the final wave, so that was definitely unlucky. But again, your puff shroom was off cooldown for a long time on the final wave, so again, digging up some of those, seeing that row was the biggest threat at that point. I do think it would have been well worth your time to dig up those the sun shrooms a little bit sooner and put some better firepower right there. So again, I would say this actually so far has maybe been your biggest level from an execution perspective so far. And again, I say this without meaning criticism or to be mean or things like that, but this is just legitimately to try to provide some good feedback so that again, if you sort of run into that position next time, it's like, okay, what do I do if these 2 rows are cone heads, and sort of just trying to be a little bit better prepared for sort of some of the worst case scenarios that can encounter with your final. I just think that there were a couple of things that could have been a little bit could have been a little bit improved there that could have made a big difference. So I actually think I would have planted this in the top row. One, because the top row is maybe, you'd already gotten a zombie there, so it's less likely that it gets eaten than in this 5th row. But again, sometimes you take the chance. Yep. Oh, okay. Again, I think, I think in terms of playing the odds, this, you ended up making the right decision, but I'm not sure that was, that had the best probability of success. But maybe this is an instance where I'm just wrong, and that's how it is. There we go. I like the puff right there. Probably as soon as you get 75, trying to there, I think it go. You're already kind of close to the 50. Yes. And I think I like puff shrooms there better than potato mines. I don't tons of value. Yeah, so I'd say, like, again, in terms of overall feedback, I think that's maybe the one thing that could be the most improved. Again, being, you know, more willing early on to plant puff shrooms in the 8th column. Like it is, like, there's always a chance that you can lose it, but again, puff shrooms are, like, pretty disposable, and by the time you're actually going to you're actually going to lose it, you know, you're in a position where you have most of the map pretty well covered. So I think that's the way. The night levels suck, and recently my night levels have not been great either. So again, you know, you know, maybe you want to learn from someone that has a little bit more experience with these things. I don't know if you could have snuck in another fume shroom, but anytime you have the solitary green door zombie, trying to get a second fume can be very, very valuable. It can save like 3, 4, 5 seconds compared to. That was nice. I did like that that placement there. And having the fume shrooms in the 5th column isn't the worst thing in the world either, because it only takes the zombies about a second or two before they're within range of that 5th column. I don't think the sun shrooms are really worth it at this point. You only have like less than a minute. Maybe it's not a huge deal. They are only 25 sun, but I always sometimes I find that there is an abundance of sun by the end of this level, so I would plant. Yep, there. I might have even used a chomper, to be honest. Given that, again, I think your sun situation for the rest of the level is very strong. So I would have actually used a chomper here and a grave buster right here, and not even knowing that there was going to be a second Conehead, which really, wow. Okay, that was ballsy. That was ballsy, but it ended up paying off. So what can I say? Yeah, I do like starting to set up some chompers in these rows. This is all very good stuff. After you have one fume per row, you start to use chomper. I try to do the same thing, YMB. It's almost sort of like our new philosophy on 3-2, 3-3, 4. Once you have one repeater per level in those pool levels, I think the chomper is valuable. I definitely do. Not a bad level overall, but you know, again, I think, you know, a couple little things like that. Again, just being a little bit more willing to plant some early fume 8th column, especially when you have the 6th column that's also available. I think that's the better way. My prioritization is usually, you know, if the 7th row is blocked, the next best row is the 8th column, followed by the 6th column, and then 9 and 5. That's usually how I'll do it. And I try to go with whatever rows, I'll try to look at whatever rows are the biggest threat. And in the other case, in most of these levels so far, I do think those rows that have had the 7th column blocked, as a result, have been the biggest threats, really. Yeah, wave 19 could be very slow. I think you're right, YMB, but yeah, sometimes you just don't quite know. As it turns out, that 19th wave could have been an absolute disaster, getting back-to-back Coneheads, but you know, it turns out that ended up being play, I would say. Pretty nice sun drops so far. Must be nice. The sun drops on my last couple are garbage. Oh, nice little time for a break. Water. Stretch. I always feel like I start to lose my voice a little bit by the end of this. I should have had a little snack before this too. I really don't want to eat on stream. I'm getting a little bit hungry. Ooh, for a second, your gravebuster there might get eaten. It's fine to bust that grave. It's not essential, and you know, you have a small risk of, yeah, now, okay, all right. you were probably going to get 150 sun. I just, I don't know if personally I would have gone that route, given that, that grave was going to probably be captured by the final wave anyway. Oh, Era, what's going on? Good to see you, my friend. How have you been? Being alright. Nice. I don't know how close you were to your gold there, but must have been like with 10th or something. Right. Again, I've really liked your plant selection so far. That's definitely a strength. Strength as a runner, very, very fluid. I know for me, what I try to do in advance is just like visualize, what like what the next level is going to look like. It's like, okay, we get the hypno that appears here, and I know like 1, 2, 3 because you're getting the fumes. Like you're kind of going all across the row, and then jumping back, knowing that you carry and the potato mine. So I think that's all been pretty good. Yeah, again, I just really think it's more important to put these puff shrooms 8th than 6th. Or broadcaster. Yep, that's me. At some point I do want to have try to set up another race between some of our runners, particularly if we have some runners. We have a couple runners that are sort of swapping between 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place, and I think that could have been better. I think that could be a really good race. So love to set that up. Maybe we get hosted on Speed Gaming. Oh, hey, good morning, Ruskell. How you doing? Happy Saturday evening. You? Is it still Saturday? Probably still Saturday for you guys, right? Ugh. I would be planting the puff shrooms. There's really, you're gonna need a little bit of help there just to get them off cooldown. Not totally sure what the hesitation was there, but don't love the fume here. Could have gotten away with just puff shrooms there, and then you would have had enough for like a fume shroom right here, which I think could be a lot more valuable, given that final wave there is that could help for a long time. I think what I would have done here actually is busted this grave, planted a puff shroom as quickly as I could right here, and then tried to get this next puff shroom right here. Just, this guy's kind of, little bit of bad RNG there. I don't know if there's a whole lot you could have done about it, but doing very well today. Actually, it's been a pretty good week. I had a nice Thanksgiving yesterday. It was Thanksgiving here in the States, so that was that was really nice. Oh, not yesterday, 2 days ago. Can't even keep track of my days anymore. I did have to work yesterday, but yeah, got a couple days off now. We're going to my brother for sort of a secondary Thanksgiving / like apple pie situation going today, so it'll be a nice day. I die. Okay, that was scary, but I got stressed for no reason. It wasn't for no reason. It looked like, again, sometimes the hit detection on that football zombie is really weird, so I would be like particularly aggressive with like where you place hypnos and cherry bombs, because sometimes you end up missing him because like his hitbox is like farther forward in the level than you would think. So I just try to be. So in these levels, I actually think it's good to go 7th row and then the 6th row here. I think the 6th row is better than. Oh, in this case, yeah, I agree with. And you can eventually place them in the 9th row once you kind of run out of space, but this is nice. I felt stretched. I kind of. So this zombie is a little bit move forward a little bit more quickly. This might have been overkill, although I think I would have preferred it to be in this row, given that I think these 2 rows are kind of the biggest threats. far. Obviously, you're going to need one in every row anyway. Priority might be... I feel like these 2 rows were maybe the top priority for your scaredies, you know, followed by this one, and maybe the top rows would be best because you have those 7th and 8th. Yeah, again, it would have been nice, you know, if one more. But sometimes what I'll do in this case, I'll see if you do it too. I actually plant a Hypno right here, given that this is the 9th wave. And your Hypno will then be recharged by the time. Yeah, so you see, like, all this time here, I think it's worth the 75 sun to kill this quickly. So basically my rule of thumb is if we're on the 9th wave, and if you have 75 sun, and if the zombie shows up in a row, if you have a cone head that shows up in a row that's, like, not particularly well protected, I actually do think you're better off using. So I would actually plant a fume as soon as possible, right there. Okay, I get, yeah. I would have dug this up and planted a fume right away because you definitely would have still gotten that score, and there was a second zombie that was behind. Oh. Ended up being that, you know, you did get a little bit of value out of that late Hypno, but I think that first flag was a little bit slow. And then you could have used, your Hypno would have been off cooldown by the time that you had this row available. So better to use Hypnos on some of these earlier flags if you can. Just given that, like, Green Door Zombie has a huge percentage of the wave's total hit point. Definitely, I think the fume is better there. Again, at this point, you're so late that the 50% rule is good. I was going to say is going to be satisfied by the time that the Screen Door Zombie even reaches that zombie. Much less. A couple hiccups in this level. Overall, been awful, but again, just, you know, sort of knowing when to prioritize the Screen Door Zombies. Maybe a little bit more practice there. You're also maybe a tad behind on the Grave Busters. I also didn't love the Hypno here because now you're not going to have it for the final wave. I think you would have been better off planting another Fume. I think this guy would have been dead right around the same. Couple of differences. So you have a nice cherry spot. Yep. And again, then if you'd have the Hypno, the level would have been done at this point. So yeah. Level was really okay, but hopefully there's a little bit of advice in there. I feel like I may be being a little bit overly critical of your run, because I mean this is a good time thus far. There's no question about it. You know, 1.9 has been outstanding. 2 was very good. 5, but you know, 2.1 was good. A good chunk of the day levels 1, 2 was very good. So you know, you're definitely, you know, you're definitely doing pretty well. You know, overall time wise. A couple of these little things like that, I think, you know, overall, you know, could help save you, you know, a couple of seconds per level on average, and kind of start pushing you a little bit closer to. I do think you have the skills as a runner to get there. You know, you're very experienced. You know, you have a lot of decision makings. You know, pretty good. You know, a lot of experience. You know, good reflexes with planting plants relatively quickly. I actually think I would have planted that puff shroom a little bit sooner. Yes. Okay. Interesting. I wouldn't have personally thought to do that, but I actually think. Oh. I don't know now if you're going to have the potato mine by the time the dancer zombie appears. Oh yeah, well, you did have enough sun, so that's sweet. That works. Nice. Got a little bit of extra value. You didn't. Yeah, I guess he was almost dead. Got a little something. This has been pretty good. Good so far. Sure, we got like the next best case scenario for everybody to dance. A little bit unfortunate that you got the Conehead in that top row, and then I think getting a scared. I think getting a. I would have definitely tried to get a Scaredy down sooner, and then really prioritized a little. Okay, yep. So one fairly big mistake. I think you really needed there. Scaredy's also going to help for the final wave because you got a couple of graves and all that crap. So that didn't. And I think level was pretty decent up to this point. And I do like the fact that you have like this little kitty corner that should be available for blasting. And then what I would do here, yeah, again, you should have enough for Hypno really soon. These other two rows wouldn't be bad. The only thing I would have done differently is actually prioritize the Puff Shroom over the Hypno. This I knew this guy was going to be. So sometimes I find like it can be hard to know exactly when to be patient with a plant like the Hypno or even the Cherry or things like that. Like I thought your Cherry timing and excellent there, but knowing that you didn't quite get that last zombie in the back, maybe prioritizing a Puff Shroom a little bit quicker, and then given that the Conehead was behind, just waiting for the one normal zombie in the bottom row to die first, and then be able to Hypno him. And I think this is okay. This is, when you have these two graves in the 7th and 8th rows, I do off. I just already, but I've mentioned. Eighth column over 7th. Gonna beat it. This is okay. One thing I think just having 2 regular Puff Shrooms would have been a little bit better here, and saving the sun for again some of these rows that are more threatening. Like this middle row is not a threat at all. That said, though, you did help that wave go really quickly. A lot of Coneheads so far. This is great start. Maybe having a Scaredy here and here a little bit. Wow. Okay, this is nice. You get the Conehead, but he's obviously in your most aggressive row by far. But I'd probably get another. Yep. Scaredy right there. Yep. Good. This has been good. This has been good. Played this almost exactly. That's a tough one. Too bad. This could have been like a godlike first half. You could have been close to like a 220. That said, it's still going to be really good. And this guy was. Other thing potentially you could have done with some of those graves, you could have actually busted in the front row. It's nice to take care of those so you have good Hypno play. Yeah, that was a very strong first flag. Sure. Actually like that. Wow, nice. Got yourself a diamond out of it. So that's good. That's one thing I do need to do if I have the sun, be more willing to just throw a Doom in one of these first 2 levels, waves a little bit. Yep. Know that. Perfect. Been very strong so far. Again, you're a little bit behind maybe in some fume, but I think everything else has paid for it so far, and really the scariest part with the fumes is in the first, I would say, 3 waves of the second flag. If you get that like solo screen door zombie walking, that's kind of the threat. I would have gone Fume here rather than Hypno, just given that, again, once you kill that top zombie, you actually get the 50... Oh, you got actually a super unlucky roll. Like, I think you got actually exactly 50% there, so a little bit of extra hit points difference. So I stand corrected, but you still would have done a little bit of damage with the Fume. I think had satisfied the 50. But being okay. A tad behind in the grades as well, but not... Again, the level's going so quickly that I think I don't know if I would have made... Really good. Great. Just, you know, just get yourself a little bit more money, a little more cash, and just sort of avoid any... being okay, that was pretty cooperative. Yeah, great, this has been an outstanding level. Gold, that doesn't surprise me. That like 435, that's really good. I've only had a couple that have been in the 430s. That's really good for two. Again, you know, you did have some decent RNG, I would say, in the first flag in terms of getting the zombies. You know, not having a whole lot of cone heads really early, but I think for the most part that was, you know, good play. I think played it well, and we're just stayed ahead of everything. Yeah, I go Fume. Good. I like that. So with that puff, I actually would have put it right here or right here. More likely in the fourth row, I would say. Just given it was going to get eaten, it was maybe only going to take a hit or two. You know, yeah, this I doom. This is a disaster. Yeah, I guess. Okay. All right, I guess either way, whether you doom one and Hypno the other, I think that makes sense. That was a little overreactionary. Hollywood do. Yeah, I like that. I actually think I would have doomed. Oh boy, that's really tough. I might have actually used this position right here for that doom, just given that now you don't have a good Hypno spot. Top row. Kind of huge. The only major thing I would have done differently is I would have doomed this ninth wave, just given that you have to get rid of all of them, and you have the sensor zombies and all that nonsense. I do think that you almost always want to doom the 9th waves if you have the 9th and 19th waves if you have. So this one I actually would have put the doom right here, just so you have a better yeah, you have a better Hypno spot. You still would have gotten the important zombies, the cone heads and stuff, so you would have satisfied them. Oh, nice. You actually got a dancer zombie there. That's great. Pretty well. Now that you have a third doom, I'd throw one. Don't have a great spot for it. Oh wow. Oh you have, oh wow. This is funky. That was super odd. Yeah, although these are a little bit of a threat, I actually would have I would have started trying to use your Grave Busters here and here. You do need a couple more good doom. Yeah, I can kind of see the pros and cons. Yeah, you're a little low on dooms. So yeah, you've got a lot of footballs. Can't say always a lot you can do about that. Ooh, I don't know if I would have done that. I think I would have waited for the football zombie to put a little bit more quick. I guess you didn't want to lose Fume with value. So, a little bit of trouble in this. Guy doesn't like up like off screen. Oh wow, yeah, okay, that was. I'm actually very glad you were patient on that, because that could have been. Oh, you did have a second. Yeah, that's pretty good. Again, getting a sub 110 night levels is right at that point. That's usually what I would shoot for at this point. But obviously maybe closer to 109 when you're kind of really really getting aggressive and for sort of sub 3. Been pretty good. Again, my really only major criticism with night levels are just those early tough placements and sort of just a little bit of difference in terms of like when to plant some of the hypnos versus fume shrooms and things like that. But honestly, these night levels weren't too bad. Okay. I guess the one what was the most problematic one that. I think it was 2-3 in that final wave problem. That was really, I'd say that and the puff shrooms are really the only major thing I would say. Give a little bit of second thought to sort of see if there's sort of a different way to in the future. So far, so good with this. I feel less strongly about the sunflower sort of placements on levels. Losing one, it doesn't feel quite as bad for some reason, but I like the start here so far. This is good. So I probably would have dug this up. I know like it kind of sucks and you want like more value later on in the level, but given that this zombie may need to die fully before you get to the end, I think it's better to save the time. It would have been better to save the time on that flag than it would be to like maybe save a little. So yeah, see now you're not like the lawnmower is going to be kind of an entire waste. Hindsight, I guess, does kind of play out in the end. It looks like you're actually you're positioning yourself potentially for a pretty. There's no need to dig that up. That doesn't make a lot of sense because you could, in theory, that could be a lily pad that you could cherry bomb, which in hindsight it's not. But oh, this is going to be like the most valued cherry of 2019. Holy crap! Perfect. This is great. 10 is a rock solid. Yeah, again, the only thing I do actually think you could have saved almost 10 seconds by letting that lawnmower go a little bit earlier. I don't know what that would have meant for your final wave, but actually no, because you didn't even end up getting any spawns in the final wave anyway, so that potato mine was kind of a waste. Yeah, the potato mine could have been more valuable, and yeah. So again, that would be my only feedback on that level. Again, what I know I'm a little bit greedier than some of the other runners, but see the reason I like using the stacked 3 sunflowers in a row on this is because now you have like a 3 out of 4 chance of sunflowers, and that just feels really high to me. That again, even if he does show up in the first row, you have a lot of good solutions like either the squash or the potato mine, whatever you want. So yeah, I just. I'd really recommend switching over to the sunflower strat for these levels at the very least. I would dig up that sunflower. Yep, right, exactly when you did those. Sort of like A1. This was some feedback I had for A1. I don't think it's great to plant the lily pads this early in the level. Reason being, just sometimes you can be like right up against it when it comes to like planting that next sunflower, planting that next squash, or planting that next repeat. That, you know, again, it's nice to be a little bit ahead, particularly on this level where you really only need a couple of lily pads. You know, like, even if you had to plant a lily pad now, for example, right? Like, you haven't really lost. Oof. I thought you would have gotten that. What I'd probably do here is I'd use the potato mine against. I might also have been a little bit more aggressive than flowers, I think. Oh, you get one sun. But I don't think you had to stall that out. I think that potato mine would. Well, what I would actually do here, I think, is just bury it. Yep. Sucks, but again, it is fast, and given that you had no, you know, no firepower there whatsoever, I think otherwise, you know, you would have had to do probably a repeater and a chomper, or wait for the squash to come off cooldown, and like all that's very low. But you can see like you haven't even run out of spaces for your sunflower here, so I think this is a few too many lily pads early. Obviously, you don't want to be behind in lily pads, but I just think that, you know, that's 125 sun, or at least 100 sun, that at that point, at the point that you planted them, could have potentially been better spent. One man's opinion, but I would chomp. I probably would have been more aggressive and tried to chomp or. Okay. Maybe the cherry on here, given that second row is out of. Yeah, there's been some problems in this level, and I won't say 100% of them are, you know, it could have been entirely avoided, but like even with that squash, right? Like, if you'd had more sun, you could have had a repeater down here sooner, and you could have used the squash here and finished that wave a little bit sooner. And then you could have used the chomper to. I would have actually left that chomper because that could be good for the final wave. So I think, and I know I've felt this way on some of the pool levels before too. I think maybe you're feeling just like it's just a teeny bit flustered with everything, and yeah, this level has been not great. And again, I'm sure, you know, I know I'm kind of stating the obvious a little bit too, but I feel like there's a lot that could have been done differently in this level that you know, between, again, you know, early, you know kind of, you know, ignoring the second row maybe a little bit longer than you should have, and the early lily pads that, like, I don't think really paid for themselves at the point in the run that they were. To, again, you did get a little bit unlucky. You did lose that one potato mine, and I think that alone actually could have nearly saved this level. But I've liked the play in these last two waves a little bit, but at this point, yeah, this chomper, we don't even know, you know, he's going to pay off if there's anything that's close here. Squash got a little. I would use chomper. Yeah. Yeah, I'd take a while and you know, go back with this particular level and sort of say, like, all right, if
how the hell was that worse than my latest run? Makes no sense. That felt fine. I mean, the middle section, I guess. I mean, you know, after the first fight, that was pretty bad, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, respectfully,
but like that level didn't feel like it was gonna be like a 36-second time loss compared to my PB. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So respectfully, I disagree. I think that that level was your weakest level of the entire run so far. You you know, again, the problems in the first flag did snowball into the second flag, but then again there were a couple of instances like, you know, you used a squash here and really like the squash needed to be there, and you know, a couple of potato mines that either got eaten or were just kind of out of position a little bit. You know, to again having way too many lily pads early on, and again, if all of those lily pads, for example, had been devoted to getting a repeater up in that second row sooner, like all of your problems would have been solved, because really like so much of the trouble with that level was like all in the second row. And again, I don't mean to go back to it, but I really do think, you know, you're almost assuring that you lose one out of your first 3 sunflowers by planting them. It's like, you know, 75% chance is really, really high that you lose one of those. And I just think it's too costly. I just think, you know, it's one thing, you know, if it's you know, only a 60% chance, but when you bump up to 75%, that's a real, you know, that's a real problem. And again, even with this in particular, you could have either walnutted it if you wanted to, or, you know, you would have been able to deal with this row a little bit quicker, which sometimes, like, if zombies speak right, it could, you know, could have ended up with, you know, with a better situation and been able to deal with that wave a little bit faster too. It is nice you're going to be able to get rid of 2 rows here. So here's an example where I actually would start to plant lily pads just a little bit sooner, just given that like you're almost out of sunflower spaces. So again, having like 1 more lily pad here a little bit sooner might have been good. You can also like start slipping the sunflowers. Like, yeah, I wouldn't hold off on the sunflowers. This is a mistake for sure. You know, if you slip a sunflower behind here, there's, you know that this zombie is okay. You kind of did it there, so maybe just a little bit later than was absolutely bad. Again, I would prioritize the sunflowers a little bit sooner, and I actually think I would have let that zombie. I think you made the right decision. I'll take that. But yeah, so you see, you know, you didn't plant quite as many early sunflowers or lily pads in this level, and as a result, like you're still okay. Like you're still in a very, very strong position. So I actually would have used the cherry bomb here. Okay, this is fine. I think this is fine. Yeah, you're a little bit behind on sunflowers, and again, if you had planted the lily pads a bit earlier, I think that would have been better. I think it also would have been worth squashing this guy just to really speed along the 50% rule for this level. That was the play. So now I guess you have it for this wave. Which, okay, this was kind of a soft wave. Definitely squash that guy. Nope. You can argue it'd be a little bit late for that sunflower. It's probably like right at that where it's not necessarily going to pay off. Oh, this is convenient. That should be. A lot of divers so far. So this. So I actually kind of do like this, and this is a strategy I've sometimes been trying to take on a little bit more with these levels. Is sometimes like you can get away with just like double chompers and squashes and potatoes to basically just deal with 1 row, and then have okay, this is all right. Yeah, I'd probably chomper this guy if you're gonna go aggressive. Yeah, I think a chomper here and then putting the repeater here would have been far more valuable. Yep. So. There you go. Oh, hey, Firestar. Good morning. How you doing? How is life? How is Thanksgiving? This has been okay. This has been better. You should be able to get a sub 5 minutes here, or at least very, very close to 5 minutes. Definitely squash that nonsense. Put a chomper in the bottom, and bad. Quite get to the sub 5 minutes, but that's still okay. Saved a little bit of time, so definitely an okay level, and certainly an improvement to 3-2. And I hope the lily pad situation kind of makes a little bit more sense. Like you were never really behind, maybe behind 1 lily pad at one point in that level, but not nearly. Like at one point I think you had 4 idle lily pads in 2, and that's just not the best use. Ah, nice Animal Crossing. That's one I never quite got into, but oh. Again, I do hope you'll consider the you know, the different sunflower strat here. I really do advocate it. I think losing those sunflowers like relatively ends up being pretty costly. Like overall, I'll bet it affects your sun production by like 5 to 10% course of a long level. Just because again, losing a sunflower early means like fewer, harder to plant sunflowers later, and that sort of thing. Curious whether you're going to squash this. I could go either way on the squash. So you do want the squash to be on cooldown, and I probably would have squashed this guy in hindsight. At the very least, like put the squash in this 4th row just to get it off cooldown. You're doing fine on sun. Lily pads are a bit early. No, it is 3-4, so you actually do want some slightly earlier pads, I would say. But that play, yeah, a little higher priority on sun, and you know, having some aggressive instance, and a little lower priority on the lily pads, especially where you have the tangle kelp. Like you really actually don't need lily pads until the 2nd flag, or when you run out of space for your might have been a little overkill. Critical. Like, could have had a repeat here and been able to get to this 50%. Done a good job with the tangle kelps. It's nice to get 4 out before your first one. Good. Oh, well, turns out those repeat. Oh, so Firestar, yeah, I'm not playing this one. I'm reviewing TheMadWasp's run. I'm not sure if you were talking about one of his clicks that looked off a little. This is not cheating. This right in the pool here. This spinning cursor is mine, and the other cursor is TheMadWasp's. This is okay. I like the play here. I don't think you could have gotten around it, you know, really being, you know, I don't think you could have gotten around. I'd start to be putting a few more lily pads out at this point. Again, you're doing well on sun, starting to run out of placements and stuff. You know, I definitely, you know, prioritizing that sun. I think the sun is more important on this level than, you know, kind of some random repeater. I don't love that. Oh, his clicks on plant select. Oh, interesting. I wasn't even, I didn't even... Who knows, maybe he cheated. The whole world has gone up in flame. Again, it's really, you know, yeah, that sunflower placement really took a long time. On this level, again, I'd really try to be a little bit more aggressive with getting some sunflowers down. You really were never behind in the pool at all. You've been great with the tangle kelps. You really haven't even needed any of the repeaters at all in the pool thus far. So I don't like that one. I think a chomper would have been better, and maybe saving the instant for the 9th flag. Which... So, for example, if you'd save the cherry for... Yeah, sorry, I meant cherry, not chomper. If you'd save the cherry there, you could have just instantly finished that wave. So, a couple of very slight mistakes here. But, you know, overall, not bad. Again, I shoot for about a 430 to 440 time for the 2nd flag. And I think you were right at that 440, 445 marker. So, not... Might have gone with a potato mine in the bottom there. That guy jumping. You definitely consider using cherry at some point. But early on, that'll be good. I'd use the cherry here, I think. Like this nonsense is time, and might have been able to make better use there. So I would have used it there for sure. Or if you hadn't already. That was that. That row was pretty well taken. Pretty good. Third flag's definitely been solid. Nice, somehow that guy survived. That's been late. I also would have used the jumper here first. I think your cherry might come back, particularly where they save the Tangle Kelp. I don't like the Tangle Kelp here just because a lot of times you end up like cherrying this area, like using a Tangle Kelp here if you have to. So a couple little miscues here that I maybe don't. Yeah, so for example, having a Tangle Kelp here, so if you plant a if you cherry this spot right here. Wow. Hey, Mr. Diamond. Yay. Yeah. You saved a lot of time, but, you know, your time of 4:45, you can definitely get that closer to, or 6:45, you can definitely get that closer to 6:30 on a relatively consistent, maybe 6:35, so. I think you were a little bit behind on planting some of the sun, and then just a couple of instances in the second half where maybe you didn't prioritize things quite the same way. Not a bad level, but certainly a couple of them. Not opposed to using cherries once you have like get a lot better. Yeah, you're doing so well on money that I don't think you need to worry about losing one mower at all. If you're going to use a cherry against a footballer like that, use it as soon as possible, because there is actually sort of a like semi thing that goes on with these. Yeah, so like that was slow, for example. Like you didn't get much benefit from the rule there, versus if you cherry like right away, you would have. So, want to be a little patient with the cherries, kind of like you were. Okay. Yeah, maybe that was just a miscount. Yep, definitely. I mess this up a lot too, but very important to count on this level. Maybe more so than almost any other level in the run. Not that it's going to make a huge difference. Yeah, I would have used that cherry right away. Just like get to 50. Done with it. You know, particularly where you knew all the zombies were going to be appearing. Going to be appearing in those rows, since your first and second rows were unmoored. Not even opposed necessarily with you. Yeah. So personally, I would have actually used a lawnmower there and saved the cherry, because again, you're doing so well on sun that it doesn't really make a huge difference. Towards the end, I'd start saving your cherries at this point. Even like, that one's tempting. But now the problem is, you're getting close to the 9th wave and or 19th wave, and you don't have any cherries saved up at all. So this is a little troublesome. Like having one more cherry earlier, I think would be the way to go. That was a special delivery. That kind of saved your ass a little bit. At least maybe 5 or 10 seconds from. Failed out again here. Got a guy down. 315's okay for this level, but again, I think a couple things that could have gone differently, letting that one footballer go, and just a couple of cherries that you could have, if you're going to use a cherry, like use it fast and try to get that football like right away. Sure do, Firestar. You sure do. On these levels in particular, like, definitely stack the sunflowers in the same row. Like, at this point, like, there's just absolutely no reason not to. Like, now, you know, if the next zombie shows up in the second row, like, you're definitely going to lose a sunflower unnecessarily. Again, you luck out a little bit there, but once you have the rake and the squash and the potato mine, like, you have to plant the sunflowers in this row. Like, again, you can kind of make the arguments in some of the earlier levels, but that's definitely something that, again, I know, you know, we all kind of get in our habits and things like that too, but I would say, like, even if you don't get a PB on your next run, like, really try to focus on, you know, what level, particularly the levels where it really makes a ton of sense. You know, zombies, plant these sunflowers, same row. Like this one, there's just no benefit. Like, there's no reason that this sunflower, you know, should have been there, or this. That, yeah, I would have put that guy. I do like this. I think that's better. You know, technically the squash would be a little faster for this wave, but I think it's better to save row. I also think I would have planted the potato mine a little bit faster. A huge deal. Like, you might be sacrificing this row as well. I love that. Okay, sure, pick what's going on. So if you think that this run is easy, I definitely encourage you to give it a try. And I think in very short order you'll have second thoughts on how easy this run is. Actually, I truly believe that in some ways this is one of the most difficult speed runs, like, I've ever seen in my entire life. It is so hard. It is legitimately so hard. Like, it's so hard to know, like, what plants to plant and what positions, given that the whole game is non-deterministic. The zombies behave weirdly. There's weird RNG that happens all over the place. This is a hard run. No question about it. It is a speed run. Yep, and I'm actually reviewing. I'm reviewing someone else's speed run. We do have a sort of a community thing that we call, or at least that I call, WarmeCritic, where I go and not to be critical, but, you know, really to provide some genuine feedback to some other runners, you know, to help them improve their times a little. Yeah, no problem, sure, pick. Yeah, welcome, by the way. We're glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the run. It's really it's a game that's a lot of fun. You know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. I actually don't think that this was necessary. I think you got him without it. I think it would have been better placed. Well, at this point, you're so late in the level that you probably don't need extra sun. But welcome, by the way, Dak guy. Good to hear from you. Doing well. Do like that. It does suck when you get 3 cone heads. That almost always means slow wave. But that was play. Should have that Tangle Kelp back up. But I like that. Get rid of that guy as soon as you can. Interesting to see how this 9th wave goes. So I'm actually a little concerned about the second row. I think I like that a little bit better, and then I would certainly squash row right here. Okay, or yeah, save the squash. I actually like that a little bit better. Yeah, I think that was the right play, given that it was going to take you a little bit of time. Bottom. Honestly, sometimes I like chompering this, and I would have cherried right here, I think. Because there's just like a lot of I'd actually get another Tangle Kelp right here. I didn't love this final wave. I think you could have gotten a better position with the cherry, just given like your pool. You got some bad RNG in the pool, but I think you could have reacted to it maybe. Doing very well, actually. We had a really nice Thanksgiving here in the States. We actually hosted I made a turkey and I didn't destroy it, which is always a plus. Lots of tasty desserts. We had fudge, chocolate cream pie, cupcakes, a lot of good food. Really nice. Yeah, we got to host a lot of different parts of the family, some of my family, my wife's family, and we also tend to host some people for Thanksgiving that maybe their family like kind of lives far away, or they emigrated to the States and they maybe don't have like a lot of family here. So we actually hosted 3 or 4 friends that don't have a lot of family in the area, and so as a result, like we try to host and try to take them on. Everyone has. I really kind of love that tradition. I think that's so I'm doing really well actually, and I feel good. Had a little trouble sleeping the last couple of nights, but I also think that's just because like sometimes having like a holiday schedule like this like just throws my body off a little bit. I'm kind of like I tend to do well when like I'm like waking up and going to bed at the same time every day, versus we had like one day we stayed up like till it was like after 1 a.m. and another day we're going to bed at 10 something. Wow, this was brilliant. I was hoping that worked out for you. Again, this was the same feedback I gave A1. I don't like having all of these lily pads this early. I think this is 75 sun that could have been better spent. Maybe could have cherried this too. This was pretty unfortunate. I think I would have cherried that. Again, it's nice to get the firepower out, but now you can see it like slows down your sun production and just everything. Yeah, correct. Sure pick. So the reason we plant the plants is because there's a very important concept in this game that we call the 50% rule. That basically means, so like if we pause the game right here, that these 2 zombies collectively have a certain number of hit points. And again, for newer runners, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make too much of a difference. But basically, the most important kind of rule of thumb of this game is that you have to do it's actually somewhere between 35. It's a random number between 35 and 50% of the current wave's hit points in order for the next wave to spawn. So in other words, if we kill this zombie instantly, because this zombie has more hit points than this zombie does, we will have satisfied the 50% rule, and the next wave of zombies will spawn. So basically, the faster that you kill wave A, call it, the faster wave B will spawn, and the faster you kill wave B, the faster wave C will spawn, and so forth and so on. But the game also, it's not quite that nice to you. If you don't satisfy the 50% rule within about 30 seconds or so, the game will force the next spawn on you. So there are actually sometimes that we deliberately let a particular wave go because it's faster to basically prioritize your sun production rather than trying to like speed through that wave. So with this game, long story short, it's what the speed run is all about is basically how do you optimize. It's almost like a real-time strategy in some ways. Like how do you optimize killing any particular wave as fast as you can, while still focusing on your economy and still focusing on being able to deal with subsequent waves as quickly as possible as well. So that's why we tend to use a lot of these instant plants, because they help so much on a particular wave that, and again, so he'll use the chomper here and kill this high hit point zombie because that satisfies the 50% rule more quickly. And we were proactive with this potato mine because that satisfies this 50% rule more quickly. And now we have, now we have some more. I actually like this use of the berry here. I thought this was good to satisfy this 50% rule more quickly. So in other words, the faster you kill the waves, the faster the next waves will appear, but you never want to get to the point where you can't deal with a particular wave, because then that wave will be really, really slow. So you definitely wanted to chomper this one. That was a slight. And then, yeah, you have the squash, and if you'd planted this chomper sooner, you would have had this chomper available for this 19th. Correct, yeah, Ever puts it very well. It's like an RTS speedrun where the actions per minute do not really matter that much. I mean, obviously, like, the faster you plant stuff, the better, right? But it's your actions per minute are not nearly as important as your decisions. So we estimate that there's somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000 decisions that get made over the course of this speedrun. So, like, right now the runner has many choices, right? The choice is, do I plant this tangle kelp, and if so, where? Do I plant another sunflower to increase my sun production? Do I plant this cherry bomb, given that it has a long cooldown, but I'd be able to kill this wave a little bit quicker? Or do I plant this chomper? Or do I plant nothing? Or do I save another 50 sun and put another repeater? And all of those decisions technically have their merits. There are some pros and cons to each one of them, and it's very, very, very difficult to determine which one of those decisions is correct. And so as a result, like right now you can see sort of looking for a cherry, but I actually wouldn't use a cherry, I would use a chomper right here. So I think he made the right decision right here. Maybe save the cherry for right here, where it's very difficult to deal with these two, yeah, you can see he sort of ran a little bit behind there, where it was difficult to deal with those two diver zombies. And again, using a chomper right here, because that high hit point zombie there is the one that needs to be prioritized. Yep. So there is a lot of RNG that goes into this run, but it's far more important to make good decisions than it is to get good RNG, because on any particular level, RNG probably plays the biggest role in whether you get a good time or a bad time. But over the course of all 50 levels, like, the RNG really does have a funny way of, like, sort of evening out over the course of the run, and the decisions that the runners that make better decisions almost always end up with better times than those that get RNG. Like, again, for a particular level, like getting a gold split, for example, you know, it does matter a lot whether you what I actually would have done here, I would have planted this repeater much sooner, given that this zombie was going to be the most problematic one. Usually I'm at like 2 repeaters per row at this point, but you're actually doing pretty well from a time perspective here. Yep, again, yeah, you should be able to do this. You should have a good spot for your cherry. I would say right in this middle. Ooh. Okay, that was a huge mistake. Because it's going to be, you know, it's going to be hard. Yeah, and I actually don't like the chomper there, because these 2 rows are going to be slow. So I would say, like, the cherry was misplaced. Really needed at least 1 more repeater in one of these 2 rows, and I actually think that you could have had like a 620 something on this level. You know, I think it could have been improved just a bit. The rest of the level was really strong. There's really not a lot that could have been improved. I agreed with almost all of your decisions, but that final wave, I think you would have been better off planting the cherry right there in the 3rd row. Then you could have wiped those out. You could have started planting the chompers and you know, the repeaters and stuff in those bottom 2 rows that were a little bit less protected, and much better. Oh, nice. Welcome. I'm going to say Snarled Ice. Yeah, I actually just noticed this morning, one of our other community members, Firestar, noticed that I'd been featured on that I've been featured on Glad Jonas, which is really quite the honor. I never thought I would get featured on one of these things, but that was and honestly, I don't quite know how Jonas found the clip, but that was actually one of the most clutch saves I've ever had. And again, I probably have about maybe 1,500 hours of streaming the game in a lot of different categories. I'd almost forgotten about that one particular clip, but that was a very close call. So I was really honored to be featured on the stream. So we actually do have a pretty big Plants vs. Zombies speedrunning community, and as we're kind of describing to some people, it is a very difficult game to run. Again, it looks easy. It looks like it's an auto scroller where you just sort of plant a lot of things, but again, the faster that you can kill any particular wave of zombies, the faster the next wave will appear. So being able to use that to your advantage is definitely the single most important factor for getting a good. So a little bit of feedback on this run. Again, these lily pads are not necessary this early. You're far better off, planting your sunflowers here. I just don't like this, and I would have planted this potato mine right here a little bit. Yep. So Jax, I have not streamed Survival Endless, but our top runner in the community, YMB, we call him for short. He does stream Survival Endless from time to time, and he has a terrific run on YouTube if you want to catch the greatest Survival Endless. It's really a masterpiece that again is not something that should be taken easy. So what I would have done here actually is probably squashed I think you would have been fine killing that top row by hand, losing a little bit of time there in order to save the cherry for one of these later things. I like saving the cherry because sometimes, like, if you get completely overrun, you know, like for example, you could have saved two Tangle Kelps right here with a cherry right there. So yeah, I don't. All right, you can probably Tangle Kelp this guy. I would definitely continue to prioritize your sun a little bit. I feel like this level's falling a little bit behind. It's not that bad. So what I'm doing right now is I'm providing some feedback to one of our other runners in a series that I call WarmeCritic, to sort of help some of our other runners who haven't been running maybe quite as long as I have, help them improve their times, and just sort of help find some of the over 300 waves is possible. Actually, it is possible that with the perfect strategies, you can find you can basically do as many waves as you want. It reaches a point where you can use so many you can use your cannon cob so effectively that basically no matter what the game throws at you, you can deal with it. So it's very cool. Yep. So I always do these WarmeCritics with permission. I wouldn't take someone else's content or do anything that sort of resembles like and again, I don't want this to have the impression that like I'm like trying to take a dump on him or show how much I know or anything like that, because there's been a couple of instances where he's done something differently from that I would have done that was actually the right move in hindsight. So it's all sort of about sort of like sharing our perspective and just sort of again as a community sort of like trying to find the best way to react to different situations that you get in the different waves and that. So this was okay. You'll probably have the squash back by the final wave. Again, if you wanted to get really aggressive, you could have chompered this guy right here. And yeah, you should have your Tangle Kelp. You might have wanted to plant a proactive chomper in one of the waves just to get it off cooldown. Not a. Like this, I would definitely cherry right here. Yep. Good. And throw a squash, probably. Yep, perfect. Could have been a little bit quicker with that last squash, but I wouldn't. Should be shooting for like some sub 5-minute times now. Again, it can be difficult depending on your RNG. And I know that level was really, really good in your P. So it's that time loss isn't like quite as bad. A little bit of a hiccup with the plant selection there, but I'd say your plant selection has been very strong. Yeah, so welcome, by the way, Mark. Really glad to have you. Yeah, again, this is a run that looks incredibly simple, right? It looks like an auto scroller, and it's like, what can you possibly do? But every single wave, it is possible to gain or lose time in the run. And again, it really is RTS like that. Again, how much do you focus on your economy, i.e. your sun production, versus how much do you try to kill the early zombies quickly, versus how much do you use plants that maybe don't help you quite as much early but could help you later on in the run. And so we've had a lot of trial and error, and I've been speedrunning this game actually almost exactly 2 years. It's almost been 2 years since my very first stream. And believe it or not, we've actually improved the strategy, not just the execution, but the strategy of 49 out of the 50 levels, which in the only exception being the very first level that like really has next to no strategy. So there's really been a lot of improvement, and really every few months we find something that I won't say is game breaking, but we find some significant way to improve even just a single level by a couple of seconds on a more consistent basis. Yep. So I actually started speedrunning, believe it or not, 14 years ago. So I do sort of jokingly consider myself, one of the sages of speedrunning, and that I'm a little hipster about it, that I was speedrunning before speedrunning was cool. Yeah, I'm one of the older ones in speedrunning with the Demos Archive and sort of some of the other things. But I've been so thrilled to see how much speedrunning has grown, because it's just been like. It's just been so great. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to our actual feature here, I liked your decision to let that Falter go. You were a little bit unlucky. It was unfortunate that your squash was off cooldown. Usually better to deal with these squashes. Again, I think you do have too many lily pads. Having 3 like idle lily pads like this really isn't the best. Yeah, I think that was the right decision. But, like, kind of a waste in some ways. Yeah, I would have planted the potato mine much more quickly to help protect this chomper and grow a little bit. Try to get a leader out on this row, definitely. Yep, no garlics yet. We don't get the garlic until 5-6? 5-4? 5-6. Yep, so, but we will, we will, the garlic will make an appearance. The garlic, you may think of it as a kind of useless, you know, kind of doesn't help that much sort of plant, but the garlic, yeah, the garlic is not unlocked yet, but it is legitimate. There is some real value in the garlic over the run. A little bit behind in some of your sun production. I'd like to be at like, it'd be better if you were at like 20 flowers. Not necessarily. Yep, so what the garlic does is when the zombie eats the garlic and moves into a different row, which sort of sounds useless because it doesn't actually help you kill the zombies any quicker. But what happens is we use a strategy later on in the run called the Gloom Shroom strat. And what that allows us to do is if we place a garlic in the very top row and in the very bottom row, then all the zombies like converge towards the middle, and we use this very powerful AoE plant called the Gloom Shroom. And that Gloom Shroom becomes super effective by basically forcing all of the zombies into the same point on the map, and then that area effect damage that it does is really, really strong. So although the garlic doesn't itself save any time, it actually does help save time in levels where, you know, it can be more difficult to, where you have really good AoE plants, which we don't yet, but we will later on in the run. The garlic can help there, but we don't get that till 5-6. So if you guys stick around to the end of the run, you'll get to see the value of the garlic. But so yeah. Anyway, again, I think your sun production has been a little bit light so far, and as a result, you know, it is better to try to have all of your torchwoods up by the second flag if you can. You don't always have that luxury, and you do have 2 repeaters in a lot of the rows, so I guess we really can't complain too much about that. But there we go. Oh, welcome, by the way, MadWasp. Yeah, we've been having some good fun with WarmeCritic this morning. There's been many good things and a couple of things that you know, we may have some different advice for. I would definitely get that last torchwood out. By the way, at this point, you know, this far into the 3rd flag, it's a little bit late. But unfortunately, the twin sunflower upgrade does not see any love in this run. That's, you know, it takes too long for it to pay it for itself. So if you have like a really long, slow level, the twin sunflower can pay for itself. But well, one, given the fact that it costs money, and money actually is a little bit of a limiting factor. I would definitely. I think that I'm assuming this is just an oversight. Yeah, that you didn't have the torchwood quite as quickly. Okay. Yep. A little, you know, maybe a little bit of extra sun that wasn't, you know, perfectly put to the best use, but that's okay. So I bought the Game of the Year edition, so I never had a version of the game that had Michael Jackson, but some of the other runners do use it if they've owned the game for a longer time or what have you. So that's good. Yep, definitely a squash there. That's a great choice. And done soon. Pretty good effectiveness in the final wave. I like the fact that you had that the Tangle Kelp right there to help protect the Torchwood a little bit. So overall, I'd say that was a pretty good level. Again, as you become more and more advanced, I could see you trying to push down to like a 6:30 time. Really not bad overall. Yep. So really, the only reason we need money is one, to buy the rake, which again is another underutilized feature when you're playing through the game casually, I would say. and the other reason being to buy the gloom. So that's why we actually really like money drops, because because it does really help us. It is possible to lose a run due to not having enough money. Probably a 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 chance of that actually happening. And a little bit of bad luck with this. I can't really blame it at all. But you got a lot of Torchwood, so I'm hoping that although these first two flags kind of sucked, I was actually going to say I actually think you should have saved that, because I was worried, what would happen if you got another cone head or a bucket head or something like that, and you were so close to the 30 seconds having passed that I don't like that that placement very much. I also personally would have held off on the walnut placements, because the more walnuts that you have queued up, the fewer walnuts you'll get later on, and since you already have 2, which is what you need, so. Yep. So and we do have a PvZ speedrunning community. It's growing. We usually have somewhere between 10 and 15 active runners.com. Usually someone streaming the game almost at any given time. Maybe not quite up to that point yet, but our Discord now has maybe 300, 400 members or something like that. That's really grown. Maybe someone will post the Discord link for those that might be interested in that. This is really great. Look at all these Torchwoods. You never get this many Torchwoods early. The end of the first flag, too. You're just behind in repeaters, which is like sort of the great irony of the whole thing. But I still think at this early, the Torchwoods are better than the repeaters. So I think as a result of that crappy, the crappy first couple of flags, you're going to lose a little bit of time in the first half. But I'm not. I think you'll make up for it in these next 2 flags pretty well. I just hope that this 20 seconds lost wasn't like the dagger, and honestly it might have been, because it's possible to get a sub 2 minutes. Yeah, you had a lot of tall nuts, but again, I would recommend not planting the tall nuts until you absolutely have to. Just again, given that each walnut that you place increases the probability that you get more walnuts. That's not. Little water break here. I've been yakking away for 2 hours now. A little bit more than halfway through the run. Most of our top runners tend to have about a 1 minute and 30 second time, and I have not watched this one. So again, I wanted to give this as sort of a true, first impressions sort of stream. I think it great. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's great, Snolid. Yeah, again, even if you consider running like some of the shorter and easier categories, we have categories for individual levels, for puzzles, mini games, and survivals. Most of the levels individually, including all of the individual survivals and things like that. So really, whether you like a longer run, shorter run, more strategic, more luck-based, the community, the speedrunning, community really does have something for everybody. So it's really been a ton of fun. And again, I've put about 1,500 hours into just streaming this game, much less a lot of the work that I've done off stream, and then obviously playing through it casually. So it's really great. I hope the game doesn't get mad at you. I think you built it just in time. Yeah, it's really nice, Snolid. It's again, even if you want to join just to sort of talk PvZ, damn, you actually did. Although you can argue that actually helps, sort of due to our bobsled bonanza strategies. We've also gotten kind of unlucky with like dual bucket heads showing up and well, so. Yeah, you've just gotten pretty unlucky with the three-peaters here. I actually don't think you've played, other than the one mistake I would say earlier with that jalapeno, I don't think you've made too many mistakes this level. You've just gotten bad RNG. You end up having too many torch heads, which of course is the great irony, and too many walnuts, which maybe could have been avoided, like we mentioned. Ooh, crap, yep. So yeah, what I actually would have done is planted a torchwood behind some of these zombies right here. Just given that, yeah. Well, luckily, I actually think that zombie was part of the previous wave. do get a couple bob heads, which sucks. Yeah, I would definitely use the, ooh, I would have used the jalapeno in that the middle row right there. This is, yeah, this. Well, yeah. So again, it's tough to, like, when you get crappy RNG like that, it is tough to venture and, like, call it a mistake, but I do think there were some things I would have handled then. But again, that said, like, sometimes that level can, you know, spiral out of control a little bit, and you did not get a lot of three-peaters. That was for sure, especially a lot of three-peaters early. Like, you got some at the end, but, like, at that point, value just really isn't there. So again, overall in the pool levels, if I was looking for recurring, themes, I would say like A1. I think you plant too many lily pads too early, and that just, you know, it doesn't seem like a lot, but 25 suns sometimes can be the difference between planting that extra sunflower, planting that extra repeater a little bit faster, having a squash that you need. Yeah, so. Oh yeah, luckily we've only had one instance of the game crashing, or it doesn't soft lock actually, but it can crash. We've only had one instance of that happening to someone in the community. So yep, that's the main feedback, and then maybe a couple instances in some of the later waves where, you know, maybe prioritizing a chomper over a repeater or something like that, or you know, where you maybe could have utilized a cherry bomb a little bit differently, but some of that stuff's a little bit more fine tuning. Again, if we were looking for, you know, kind of bigger things, again, I think it was good you caught that the cone head very early. That was nice played. But again, you know, just sort of my impressions. Again, none of this is, you know, we give this feedback and it sort of sounds like there's all these mistakes, but again, we have to keep in mind MadWasp has consistently been one of our top runners for a long time. So some of these things are very, very, like, you know, much more fine tuning, much more, you know, precise than feedback I'd have for someone that was like running the game for the first time or for the, you know, 10th time. So, Yep, repeater fires 2 people. The reason that we use the repeater is actually because it saves space. We wouldn't have enough space if we just planted the regular people, even though they're a little bit less expensive and they have the same, like, DPS per cost. And it also, like, you don't need to worry about as many repeater, like, cooldowns. So, yeah. Well, it's been a longer time since I've PB'd at any percent, so that's what we get. So sometimes what I like to do in this case is, I think I heard a conehead at the very end. Feel free to use a squash on that. Even though, like, it makes you be, like, very close, you're sort of right up against it in terms of having enough sun. I do think it's valuable. If you got all of them. Yeah, I think it would have been better to do the second row, or the 8th column rather than the 7th column. So very slight mistake, although you ended up just having regular zombies on the bottom there. So you didn't end up. 4th to 6th, yeah. Bulba's made a lot of improvements. Aaron's made a lot of improvements. Supposedly, Ever said he was going to come back to the game too, but we'll gotta wait and actually see. Now you know how I felt with all puzzles. I went from 1st to 4th in about 2 months. So yeah, my all puzzles situation has been not the greatest. A minor F. Small F. Again, other than maybe using a squash on that next to final wave, and I would have used the Doom Shroom in the 8th column on the final wave. 4-1 looked pretty good. I thought you made all the right decisions. I thought you had a really good eye about catching that conehead very early. That probably saved you a couple of... that all looked... I like your decision here. I might have prioritized picking up that sun and plant sun shroom or planting off shrooming. All well and good. It's like you don't have a lot of time to save. You lose some. This level always seems to, like, get the better of me from the perspective. I don't like this scaredy placement because I think it's better to put another planter in there later on in the level. deal, but I'd stick with the 50. Yeah, so now like you have to kind of give up one of your prime spots for the puff shroom, which isn't great either, particularly in a row where you don't have like a lot of extra space to work with. So some slight change. We've also found that like 12 sunflowers might be too many for this level. I would probably squash this guy. That's faster. Yep. Good choice. Nice. At 223 is a good time for the first flag. Again, really only mistake being right here. Might be nice to get a Scaredy in here or get an extra puff shroom here. So, like, again, if you started getting cone heads here, that not so far. It's also, I noticed every once in a while, YMB, yeah, we'll use a Doom Shroom. I like this. I do. I really do. I might have actually used the Doom up here, to be honest, so that you could have a Sea Shroom spot, so you don't have to, like, sacrifice the real estate right here. But I do like using the Doom. That's actually one thing that I need to start taking better advantage of in my own runs, is using the Doom. I actually would have, I think I would have gone Scaredy right there, just to maybe help save that, save that Sea Shroom. Not a huge deal, but would have gone. Definitely Scaredy right here. And your pool rows are probably the weakest so far, so that's where I'd start focusing some of your firepower. It's also okay, it's maybe a little bit late now, but you can also use a squash early in the second flag as well. I don't think I've seen any squashes so far. Just make sure that you save it for the 9th wave, regardless of whether you get a football or you... Like, for example, I might have... tough to know which one of these. Yeah, I think I would have squashed him. Yep. And as you can see, you ended with a lot of sun, so I do think going down to 11 or 10 sun shrooms is worth it on this level, particularly if the ones you give up are actually right here and right here, because you have the plantern for those, and so you lose a little bit of space on those. I'm actually glad that you were as patient as you did. It did take some of those zombies a long time to get on. That was. Yep. So the Scaredy, the Puff, the repeat, or the ice, the Snow Pea, the regular repeater, all do the same amount of damage. Yep. So it's funny. It's just the Puff Shroom is limited by its range. Or from a speedrunning perspective, it's just completely overpowered. Like 0 is little for the Puff Shroom, and 25 is too little for the Scaredy. The disadvantage of the Scaredy is only that, like, if zombies get close, it'll sort of cower down, but that's a very, very small price to pay compared to, like, basically having a computer or 100 suns worth of value. And obviously, like, this game is designed for kids, so I'm not saying that, like, you know, well, designed for kids, but still has, like, appeal for adults, so I'm not saying that, like, you know, I know they were so small, it's probably not that, like, they went through, like, tons and tons of testing, nor could have they, like, really patched some of it, but, you know, yeah, there are definitely some plants that are more powerful than other plants. This level. It'll be interesting. I got a bad roll of the 50% rule on this level when it came time for the so let's actually looking like pretty good RNG so far. Not a lot of cone heads. Definitely. Oh, you get a bad roll on this run. Yep. So close to, you know, you're flirting with your PB time that oh yeah, I would have and put a puff shroom right place. Yep. Does die, you know, that's like you might have gotten it actually. Nope. Ugh. And that is a slow balloon. Oh, that is super unfortunate. He's wicked slow too. At least like in my run, he was kind of fast and he would have already. Ugh. Oh, that really sucks. So this is like, when we talk about the 50% rule, there's a good chance actually that the 50% rule works for that balloon zombie by just killing the other zombie that's in the way. Yep, very nice play here. I like this a lot. Great. So you kind of made up for you. I won't say you completely made up for it, but that was well played at the very end of the level there to sort of deal with deal with those last two waves effectively. I actually think your time might be okay in this level, just because I would definitely plant this in the 8th. Yeah, yep. I think especially because you knew that no zombies were going to appear in the bottom row, I think it is better to plant it in the 8th row. You can even like start to prep it by planting a lily pad and a puff shroom, and then if you have a zombie that you think might be like starting to sneak away a little bit, you can plant another lily pad or save one of your sea shrooms to like help block him and like keep him within the radius of the doom. Just a slight little bit. I'm actually surprised you didn't lose more time. But again, the RNG was good, and you dealt with the rest of those waves like really, really well. And that the Doomshroom thing with the final wave maybe only cost a second, not the end. Four is always a pain in the ass, and like really start to become a problem if you get a lot of dolphins on. My record for dolphins is either 7 or 8, I think, waves. So, yeah, maybe it was 7 including the final wave, but it was just the work. There's only so much that the tango kill. I actually like that. I like that a lot, particularly where you knew you were probably going to have the 25 sun for the. Like you might have a problem in bottom row. 5th row. Good. Sometimes it can kind of be tough to like count how much firepower you have in each row and all that stuff, so yeah, so that's sort of what I was saying with the Doom in the 8th row. So if you save a Sea Shroom, you can actually block those zombies from going too far. Or if you have if like right when it says a huge wave is appearing, if you plant the lily pad then with a puff shroom on top of it, you can then use your next lily pad to block the zombie that's in the pool. And the Doom radius is actually pretty good, particularly because like with the Doom in the 8th column, like it's more likely to get the radius like into that fifth row within the pool. So I think that's something that I think it's worth the risk. Very, very rarely do I miss a zombie in the pool with the Doom Shroom, particularly if I have like a good way of like kind of backing it up or like bottling those zombies up a little. Like the Blover right there, that's great. Done pretty well on Sun so far. Sometimes I've started planting a 13th or 14th sunflower sunshroom on this level, just given that, yep, I like the Doom right here, I really do. Just given that, again, sometimes you just, you need tons and tons of Blovers, and, it can be a real problem. This was a crappy wave. You really got screwed. Bad, yeah, you couldn't have saved that. I don't think you could have done that. Good. That. I'd put a little bit more, start putting a few more lily pads and scaredy shrooms in the pool a little bit sooner. Basically anytime the lily pad's off cooldown, I'll try to put it in the pool. Again, unless I like absolutely that sun for something. Pretty good. Actually, wow, you got doubles there. That was a really fast flag. That was. And then, of course, that gets followed up by garbage RNG, so... Two. Yeah, see if you can get that Tango Kelp in there. We're right up against it. Wave. All those ended up, I guess, kind of dying around. This, for example, again, is another good case of definitely putting the 8th column. Oh, no. Yeah, that was okay. Again, that's why I think being a little bit more proactive with some of your lily pads in the 8th column can be, or just, you know, being a little, you know, being ready and just using the Tangle Kelp to deal with the really fast dolphin zone. So I actually think that breaking the vases first is a little bit better, just so you sort of know exactly, like, it sort of sometimes takes a little bit of, a lot of, okay, that was okay, I take it back. Yep. I think I just would have, personally, I would have squashed these later ones and put the puff shrooms and stuff up, but... I was a little bit worried about. 3rd row is going to be a... of the rate coming. Oh, it was okay. Again, a 1:10-ish time, I think, is a reasonable one to shoot for. That was okay. Yeah, I would break all the vases in the first phase and then use the squashes, just so you're not, like, kind of, like, interrupting it, you know, trying to do that sort of thing. In the 2nd row, I would prioritize, in the 2nd phase, I would prioritize, putting your pea shooters and stuff down a little bit sooner, and then just saving all of the hypnos towards the end, so you basically have more time for the pea shooter damage. And then in the 3rd row, I thought you were maybe... I kind of liked the hypnos as early as you did, but it was a little bit of a risk, because, like, if you run out of, like, hypnos for the bucket heads or the disco zombie or whatever, too, it could have become... It could have turned into a little bit of a... But overall, pretty... I do want to get a sub 1 minute on that level. I do think it's possible. I just haven't. Yes, 1/6. So again, with 1/6, you actually don't want to plant. That was probably just I forget it all the time too. But you don't want to plant a sunshroom there, given that. That could be the spot where you want to plant squash. And happen to get the... you'll have to dig up one of your more valuable... I would have planted that, yeah. Still would have had enough. I hope you don't fall too far behind. Okay, but... Oh yeah, it's a common mistake for me too, to be honest. Because you're so used to... So that's why on the other levels, actually, I've started trying to place my first few sunshrooms actually in 2nd and 3rd columns, hoping that it, like, sort of gets me in that right habit of, right time. The rest of the level was pretty good, though. Oh, that's right. I forgot 4-5 was a disaster, so you saved 46 seconds there. By not getting a gold or anything like that, yep. Ooh. See, no, I would try to be more prepared with lily pads in the right spaces for the final wave. Sort of I've noticed a couple of times where that's been a bit of a problem. I actually also think you would have been better off squashing these ones in the pool and just using regular firepower for the one. So yeah, so I'd say that this was pretty. That was a pretty weak level. A couple of mistakes there that I think, particularly on the final wave, that I think could have been improved. Yep. And sometimes that final wave does suck. It is important to make sure that you get the digger zombie, because otherwise you could be like waiting on a squash for the long. That could be a pain, and I also do think that it looked like you misplanted that the lily pad too. So I think that could have helped kill a couple more of those zombies. So it's sort of like getting one mistake can usually be salvageable, but sometimes making like 2 mistakes like that in a row can be, that's worth thinking. Problems. Oh, you laugh seeing the miner zombie. Yeah, that's funny. Actually, I don't think I've seen a Lego Incredibles. Never really kind of got it too into the Lego. So it does look like. I'm definitely more into like my generation of original NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Like those runs are feel to me a little bit more than like some of the post-mod. Oh, you're the only runner. Oh, there you go. Yep. Hey, that's okay. For a while, there were really just 2 runners for PvZ, and since then, we've sort of morphed into a community where there actually is, like, competition for most of the different records. Yeah. Only active runners. Gotcha. This one might have been a mistake, too. I don't really think 12 sunflowers on this level. We have given some thought, too, to whether or not it would be worth using the chomper on this level. I'm mostly in favor of, like, I'd certainly give it, I'm always willing to give any strategy a try, you know, unless it's already been tried. Kind of some crappy RNG there. Now, PvZ does have a pretty active community. Our Discord's very active. You know, again, we do have 10 to 15 active runners, usually on average on speedrun.com. Even those that aren't active aren't necessarily, like, truly inactive. Like, they're, you know, stuff that could... I probably would have used a squash there just to get it off cooldown. I don't disagree that you didn't. I'd have saved that Doom for a digger, too. Again, it's sort of how much risk versus how much reward do you like on this particular level. That's kind of, thing. Haven't used the squash yet, so... Yeah, that definitely... Squash right the better way. Trying to make sure that your scaredies are always off cooldown, too. Really, everything should be you know, cooling down. Nothing you could have done about that one, I don't... I don't think it's worth a Doom. I hope you don't... Well, actually, you'll get to 50%. That's better. Yeah, it's a little late for the Doom. A little late. So it's hard to know whether or not, like, some of the suggestions that I had for the first half of this flag would have ended up paying off or not, but I think, again, the sooner you can get the squash on cooldown to kill a buckethead, the better, I think. I would even start digging up, yep, I'd start digging up some of the sunshroom. I wouldn't have planted that new sunshroom. Not that you need. Definitely make sure that you squash the right zombie here. I would be patient. Yep. Perfect. Go. So again, this is an example of where you could start prepping the final wave by starting to put some lily pads and stuff. Making sure you get that lily pad. Yep. Definitely gonna want to go right there. Yeah, see, I just think you're a little too afraid. Yeah, now you're not gonna get this guy. Yep. So I just think you're a little bit too... You've almost become so afraid of, like, missing the Doom on the final wave that, like, you end up missing the Doom on the final wave, you know, due to needing to, like, plant it in one of these positions and stuff instead. So I'd say that's my biggest piece of feedback for the fog levels. The rest of the stuff has really been pretty great. Really not a lot of tweaks. Obviously, you had that one sort of misplay or misclick with the play turn, but you know, aside from that, your fog levels have been really good. Phase breaker, you could maybe 5 seconds or so by practice and fine tuning. But I really think, you know, these Dooms have been not great to rank, and so I think that, you know, just trying to get like 2 lily pads earlier on in the stage, and so that way, and then getting a Puff Shroom on the lily pads, just so that you give yourself just that amount of time that even if a zombie appears right in that row, you're still going to be able to use the doom. Those 8th column dooms are really the most effective. In worst case, maybe you miss one zombie, but you have the squash for it. That's okay. So I'd say that's my biggest piece of feedback. Like I don't think actually you've nailed one doom yet in these fog levels, and so I think that's probably the biggest thing holding you back so far in fog. I think is sort of that hesitation that you have on the final waves that ends up like getting you. Yep. The other thing is, I actually think it's better not to buy the gloom this early. I usually hold off till 5-2 or 5-5 if I don't like the squash here either. I actually think that you could have, if you were very quick, you could have planted a Scaredy pretty far back. That's another thing. You want to save actually these back rows here as well for Scaredy's. You could have planted one more Puff Shroom, and I think kill him regularly, and then save the squash for the 9th flag, or for this like utter shit like this. So again, I think that squash was wasted. Yeah, and that's true. If you buy the roof cleaner first, you'll get paid back a little bit for it. In addition to, like, sometimes I find having the squash actually throws off my plant selection because, like, everything gets, like, consolidated a little bit, so I'm just, like, not quite as fast because, like, it visually looks funny to me when the Gloom Shroom is there and, like, throwing things off a little. Yeah, but I agree with you. 8 column would be better here. I think you're going to miss the bottom. Yep. So, again, I just... I'd say actually of all the things, maybe that's the single biggest mistake in the entire run. Like, again, we've talked a little bit about like the early lily pads and some of the placements of the Puff Shrooms and in the grave level in the grave, and then just aligning your sunflowers. But I actually think these dooms have been the biggest mistake so far that I've seen consistently in the entire run. Like, not having gotten through 4-8 and having not successfully gotten a doom to the final wave in a single level yet, I think is probably the biggest thing that's holding you back so far. Like, I'd say overall, the cost for this is probably close to a minute. Like, if you correct this issue, I'm confident that you can probably improve average time by about a minute, or maybe 5 seconds, or honestly maybe even more per level that you use on. Oh shoot! You forgot the sea shroom. Well, that'll be interesting. It's in some ways it'll be nice to have the Plantern kind of, but yeah, that's why actually a lot of times I take the sea shroom first. I like work my way across the bottom row first, and then work my way kind of up from there when I'm doing. But that could be tough. Obviously, so we won't focus too much on, if you get a bad time in this level, we won't, worry too much, because forgetting this really a disaster. Yeah. I don't think that's one I've ever forgotten before. I've messed up and, like, not taken, like, the Blover versus the Lantern, or that sort of thing. Back when we had different strategies for I would actually at this point really start focusing maybe even some like back row yeah, I was gonna say oh actually you did. I didn't realize you had 2 up already. That's pretty good. I didn't realize you had 2 pieces of firepower in the pool. I thought you would. So I think that I actually would have, I think I would have planted that a little farther back, because I knew you were... If you had enough sun, you could have doomed this, but... Again, sun's going to be a little bit of a problem, given the... Yeah, so obviously a 1:45 time for the first flag kind of sucks, but again, I'm not, not harping on it. I know that's a mistake that, happening. I would have let him go, to be honest. I think you were very close to the 50% rule. And yeah, I was going to say you're going to actually end up losing both the magnet and the, what you call it for it. Or at the very least, like, it's hard to say, but I kind of got bad luck there, so it's hard to say for sure, but definitely been a couple issues. Welcome back, Ruskell. Glad to have you back. Magnet positions look good. I love having magnets right there and there. That's great. You're a little behind on sun, but again, I can't blame you for that. Sometimes on this level too, I like having 13 or 14 sunflowers, but I don't think that was going to happen given how much sun you needed to devote to little ads. Yeah, again, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to say, it's hard to, like, show the cause and effect, right? Was cause of some of the problems not having the sea shroom, or did, you know, like, was that something that could have been prevented anyway? You're also getting a lot of cone heads in the pool. This really sucks. So in some ways, this may end up being your, actually, I think 3-2 might have been your worst level in the run, but this one's probably going to end up being maybe the second worst, but in a way that I think is more preventable. Oh yeah, get that puff shroom up. Here's hoping for a good final wave. Frost over this, and you'll have to go back and watch 3-2. There were like a lot of like relatively small mistakes. I wouldn't say any single big mistake. The final wave might have been a bit of a mistake. Maybe it's not 5 seconds per level, but could save a lot. Yep. So obviously, again, we won't harp too much on that. I do think having the sea shroom could have helped prevent some of the mistakes that were made as a result of like not having the sea shroom. But that said, it's also kind of good to sometimes know like how to react to a particular. Might have actually wanted that a space farther back because of I don't think the. Yep. I think you missed that angle. But sometimes I'll actually save a starfruit if I know that the rake is going to get the cone head on the first level. I'll put the rake, I'll actually hold off and wait to see if I can put those first starfruit in the pool, which you actually do anyway, so that's really not an issue. But, yeah. I have to pay attention to whether you want to use that, I'd use it. Yep, should use it, yep. That's a tough call, but I think, you know, the cactus was just a hair late, and I think, you know, even though, like, you're maybe like, oh, I don't want to waste a pumpkin, so you can sort of save for some better plants, I think that would have been better. Oh, you get a super early bucket head. That sucks. That is not nice. Gone. Yeah, I actually kind of like that. I might use, I was gonna say I would protect that thing. I think die. Yeah, I think my rule of thumb is like if I'm gonna lose like one of my firepower plants, like it is worth the pumpkin in that case, because like you're holding off on the pumpkins in hopes of getting some better plants, but then like okay, I thought that was gonna die for sure. Saying anything above 440 for this level is slow, because I disagree. Sometimes the game just trolls you big. 3-2. I think your 3-2 was like a 520 or a 530. That's that's tough. That's tough. So you'll have to maybe listen to some of the feedback on that. Can't remember all this offhand. I think we kind of talked about that. I actually don't like the pumpkins right there. I think it would have been better off to save those and sort of like re-protect your magnets if you ever had to. 410 on 410. Right, YMB. Right. That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. I do like your setup overall. Again, I think you could have used the pumpkin to save a plant or two. Rather than, like, putting them in that front row where it's kind of like they're just going to get eaten anyway. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, it happens. Sometimes you think, oh, you know, I got to protect my magnet, but you already had, like, pretty good protection for the magnet. It's all good. I do like your being prepared with the pumpkin for that top row right there. That's very good. I think something else got eaten. I had like a moment of panic there too. I'm like, no, don't lose it. You probably wanted to get those cacti out a little bit sooner. There's one that was kind of sitting in queue. I don't mind being a little bit aggressive with this. I tend to put those out because they usually end up helping. Thinks you didn't have a you didn't get the grab for that that digger zone. Should actually be okay. You'll be close to 5 minutes here, which is usually about the goal, I would say. Obviously, like, if you can get a better time, that's great, but if not... Yeah, so I actually would have put the starfruit right in the middle. You lost, yeah, you lost a plant there. Didn't end up making that one. But this was okay. You know, again, a little bit, you know, 1 or 2 plants I think that you could have saved with the pumpkin that you didn't, and then, but overall an okay 410. Especially considering you got like 3 magnets like in the first flag, or 4 magnets in the first flag, which is really, like, really unlucky. So I'd actually say you had below average RNG on that level, but your setup, the way that you set everything up, your plants was very strong. You really sort of optimized a lot of the firepower, so that was good. On the roof, boy. Hopefully we don't have an oof roof. Gotta patent that, the oof roof. So I actually like, and I think YMB does the same thing, using planting more. Okay, you kind of circle it, so I think you did. But I think you're better off continuing to plant sunflowers more quickly and just killing that zombie with a potato mine. Now, as it turns out, you ended up making the right play because you got 2 zombies back to back in the same row. But I still think it slows down your sun production just a little bit too much to deal with that. And I do like this. Now you can keep it done. You're going to get the 50% rule, and play there for sure. Definitely try to save that. Yep. Good squash. And actually you get the 50% rule a little bit quicker there because, you know, he dies more quickly. So an interesting strategy with this one could have been putting that melon pult somewhere else, or cabbage pult somewhere else, and actually putting a potato mine right there, given that you were going to get to the 50% rule relatively quickly. So again, now you get back-to-back cone heads, and or maybe saving for a repeat. But tough. I wouldn't dig that up. I'd. Oh, Bungie doesn't count for the 50. I didn't know that. I thought one time I saw that it did, but maybe it was just a coincidence. Like, we killed a zombie at the same time that we happened to get the 50% rule otherwise. So there you go. Yep, so the 50% rule is basically the rate at which the next wave of zombies appears. So you have to do somewhere a random number between 35 and 50% of the current wave's hit points in order for the next wave to appear, with the exception of this 9th wave right here, and obviously the final wave where you need to fill all of the zones. So the 50% rule basically just means it's much more important to do 50% of the current wave's hit point. Yeah, I hope you get a repeater in row pretty. And yeah, you can use a squash right there. Yep, and then you get some cabbage pull. Yep, I think this was good. It was kind of a crappy final wave. So basically, the idea, the main strategy in the run is to try to get 50% of the current wave's hit points as quickly as possible without sacrificing too much earlier or later in. Yeah. So that was a little bit of an oof level, but I don't was that bad. It's just the final wave. You kind of got some bad RNG, so that was going to be slow no matter. Mine B says he's never seen that bad of a final wave, and close to right. That was about as bad a final wave as I've ever seen. Not the worst. I've had some bad final waves on 5-1 to be sure, but it was definitely bad. That was probably most of the 10 seconds that we lost there. Again, maybe again, like I said earlier on, I would have gone cabbage pult. I would have put that cabbage pult later and more on this one. It's fine. I don't think you need to plant pot here. I guess you can. Roof is where you have the most area to improve. Well, I'll let you know my feedback on that too. I'll see. The roof can be messy. The night levels is where I have the most problems there. Agree with this. You could have waited to plant it. You could have done sunflower, repeat, or another sun. Sort of help with the sun production a little bit. This. Again, I might have gone sunflower and then squash, just so you can really try to get those sunflowers out a little bit quicker. Again, I don't think it's a huge deal or a huge time loss, but actually, I think this is okay. It's okay. It would have taken you so long to get 200 for that. I think I like this. It was moving fast enough. Good. Might actually be able to get this one with another potato. Yeah, I actually disagree with this. I think you should save the sun later. Without. Oh, okay. I think a better play would have been to put the flower pot here, since you need a pot there anyway, and then just put the squash. Ninth wave. Could have cherried this. I would also... no. I wasn't counting. This game is called When Warmech Isn't. I do like it. Okay, you can play around with some pots since you have the 4 columns that are taken care of. I might have gone cherry right here. Yep, hopefully. Yep, nice. Could have been a little bit quicker. I think I had maybe identified that a hair quicker. Yep, I like the squash there a lot. I'd also be starting to plant some flower pots just so you can get your torchwood up as soon as possible. I do think the torchwood is almost always better than 2 repeaters unless you really don't have a choice. You're maybe a little bit behind on some of those 7th column I think you can actually safely go torchwood there, and it won't get eaten. Helpful. Nice. So that does end up paying off. Yep. I like this. This. Ugh. No. So you actually could have gone squash there, because the squash would have gotten both of those guys. So, I think. Choice. Yeah, so instead, like, it's kind of a waste. You also could have put a repeater right there to help save that flower pot. Yeah, now I'd say you're very behind in flower pots at this point. You know, having some extra flower pots and being prepared for, you know, more prepared for the torchwood than you are, I think is very important for you. Like, ideally, you would have, like, four more flower pots right here. Do, like, the digging up right here. This is a strategy I think that can be done to use that, very right there. Alright, so decent final wave. Just, you know, some of those things from earlier, I think, might be able to get you into the 5 teens kind of time frame, opposed to the 520, but it wasn't that bad. Just, you know, trying to get a few more flower pots up earlier and get that torchwood up earlier, too, I think could really help your second flag by quite. So corn is not used. The reason is corn has, on average, about only half of the DPS of the cabbage pole. And what we've really found is that any plant that, like, just their main purpose is to, like, stall or slow down the zombies, almost always those plants are not worth it in this, because there's just too much, like, it's just not worth slowing down zombies. Like, you either have to kill them, or I actually don't like this. I think fine without sacrificing that pot. Yeah, 100%. But that's okay. 25 sun, but you know, again, this early sun is like important. So caught up at this point. Yeah, corn does get used at all puzzles. Technically, yes. It also might get used in New Game Plus, where the game picks some plants for you each level. Well, even then, I don't know if you would actually, like, use the corn. Maybe for one of the early flags or something like that if you had to. I like that. I think that's good. And I might be worth kind of. This is a tough one. I found myself in this. I think it's fine to do what you did. You know, it's not maybe as fast as it could have been, but corn gets used in iZombie Endless against you. We found that out before. We have a bit of a meme because WarmeCritic, myself, always gets littered frickin' I like the notion of saving, but I just think it take time. I'm not 100% sure how I would have reacted to that one. Yep, iZombie is one of the puzzles actually, where you play as the zombies and you play against the plants. So it's actually a lot of fun and makes for a really good like action-paced speed run. Maybe if I have a little bit of time at the end of this, I might try some puzzles or something. It's been a little while, but. So, all in all, this was okay. I like being like in the low 3 minutes for the first flag, and that's right where you were. Sometimes it's when you get to like 3:15, 20 that thing kind of suck a little bit. Okay, good. I like that. A bit expensive from a stun perspective, but yeah, now you get to the YMB claims he got like 7 ladders on this 7 ladders on this level once upon a time. Oof. Guess you have to chomper this one. But I like that positioning because now you have a good spot for the torchwood eventually. Ooh! What the hell? Game. Problem today. So again, it's good because you can satisfy the 50% rule really quickly, but bad in the sense of, yeah, it's been tough because now you really haven't been able to use your flower pots for more efficient things. It would have been nice if you were more at like 18 sunflowers, I would say. That's maybe the one criticism that I would have. But yeah, those ladder zombies are trolling big time. You almost never see that many. Bottom row is looking interesting, and not in a good way. Bottom row, I'm still nervous about. Tough to, know how you would have, tried to get yourself out of this one. Probably squash in that top row. I would use a squash in the top row, and yeah, dealt with the bottom row. Not either with. Yeah, so kind of crap, but. The ladder zombies are interesting because you do satisfy the 50% rule very, very, very quickly. Yep, I like that position a lot. Maybe see if you can get a squash for the bottom row. But it. Lightning fast, but pretty good. Say no real complaint. Again, given that, again, if you could have gotten 1 or 2 more sunflowers out, I think you would have just been a little bit more ahead in terms of, like, faster, faster torchwoods and faster chompers and things like that, but it wasn't, again, the game didn't, like, deal you a great hand there, so I actually think that was okay. Your roof levels have not been that bad. Again, I guess we'll see, like, there's sort of like the first half of the roof levels, and then there's like the second half of the gloom levels. So those are 2 very different strategies. Actually, sometimes I don't like having 3 sunflowers in the same row here because sometimes you really find yourself in need of a squash position. The game does not. Okay, like if you'd gotten back to back, it could have been. And I actually think you should not plant a flower pot here. I think you should just use squash right here. Like, even though this zombie technically dies a little bit faster, you're already so close to like 30 seconds having passed that it's probably not worth it. Welcome, by the way, Bulbasaur. How you doing today? Welcome, Cadmium. Oh yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. So the 50% rule means that on any given wave, the next wave will spawn when 50% of the current zombie's hit points have been defeated or taken away, or 50%, and it's 50% of the total hit points of all the zombies that are on screen. So that's why you'll see a lot of times we'll use instants, and we'll really sort of focus on not whittling down all of the zombies that are on screen, but just getting to the point where we can at least get the next wave to spawn, so that so that we don't have as much idle time with our firepower and stuff. So it's actually 35 to 50%. The game picks a random number between 35 and 50% of the total hit points of all current of all the zombies from that particular wave. So you'll see when he gets to 50%, which is right about now, the next wave will spawn. 2 seconds later is actually the rule. I don't know why it's taking so long. Oh, this zombie was just slow as hell, so that was probably. Yeah, I do like this torchwood right here. I think that was the right play. 50% of the zombies are female. That's a good point, Maybe the ones with the ties are male. This kind of sucks. You got some really bad RNG. God, I'm worried. It's gonna be so close. You need 1 hit. That sucks. So I won't chalk that up to too much of a mistake, other than like maybe seeing how fast those zombies were, like trying to block them a little bit sooner, or honestly just using a squash on the first one as soon as you could have, and then like just letting the second one go all the way back here, and then use another one. Welcome, by the way, Lieutenant Boo. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, there's a lot of like interesting mechanics that go along with this. Sure. As a result, I think you're gonna have like a 330 first half, and that's not great. But again, you try to plant flower pots as quickly as you can as well, because this level is definitely very limited by its flower pot placement spots. Right turn. I do like having a magnet once you have a torchwood up that row. Just careful, because you get too many cone heads in a row, be a problem. But yeah, you can actually see your magnet paid off big time. That definitely helps. Could have used a squash there. So, and again, I don't totally blame you, because you got unlucky with not only where those two zombies spawned, but the speed that they were moving at. Like, if either of those had worked out just a little bit differently, I think you would have been in a much better position. But, no. So again, I won't harp too much on that. You know, it's a light sort of thing. Technically, it would have been a little better to use the torchwood here, because you would have gotten both. We're talking very, very, very small optimization. It would have been nice to be able to get this on. I like this. I think it's more important to get most of the second repeaters out on each row than it is to get your second, third, and magnet, unless you've been having like a lot of magnets on at that point. Sometimes I would love to be able to get like an extra doom and be able to doom this 9th wave. That would be really cool. If I ever found myself with like an abundance of stun, I might like doom right here on this 9th wave. It's hard to do. It's hard to get a doom spot for the 29th wave, but that's what you get. Oh, one repeater with torchwood is enough to kill Pogo Zombie. I knew 2 repeaters with good, but I... Okay. Alright, this is okay, although I like this spot better for the final wave than for the 29th. But I think it'll be okay. Bit of bad luck there. I would have tried to get a pot right there a little bit. Kill that guy with this. Because you might actually lose that, but... Yeah. I'm interested, yeah, because obviously the pogo speeds vary a little bit. Times the... Might be interesting is if you doomed there, then doomed here on the final wave with a squash in one of these, except if you got the double drop. That bad pin. That's actually pretty good. I like that. Yep. So it wasn't necessarily that you lost a lot of time, you just maybe didn't save quite as much. Glad you remembered to buy the rake. Been getting better at that with 5.5, although not... Yeah, honestly, not a whole lot of criticisms, I would say, on those roof levels. Again, you know, other than like, again, yeah, it would have been nice not to lose that repeater, and maybe a little bit, you could have been a little bit faster in planting some of the sun earlier, just like tweaking those priorities a little bit too. But I would honestly say that that was not horrible. Oh, different level? Yeah, well, we'll see. Might have been greedy and gone all in there, but I think this is safer, especially given that you haven't got a lot of... That's right. Okay. Yeah, I'd go aggressive there. Oh, no need to dig that up. I wouldn't dig that up. You just never know. Like, there's no reason to dig up a flower pot. Really ever? I can't think. I can't. Good. I like your play there. Okay to be a little bit patient here. Save yourself a flower pot or two. Yep. So this one I might have cherried. Just because, like, these guys kind of have the slow, painful walk. Yeah, I think that was too much time lost. I think the cherry there. So if you were feeling really speedy, you actually could have cherried this and saved your rake. And been able to get that zombie as well. So I actually think that was a slight misplay. If once you saw like all those shadows, you know, right, I use my fingers if you guys can see that, right? But you know, once you see all those shadows, I think nice. Any chompers? Nice. It's been good. I've liked your approach. That was not necessary. That was definitely not. Oh, and I would try to save that chomper. Okay, a few hiccups here for sure. I would have cherried this for sure. This is like huge value. Yeah, I didn't like the digging up of yeah. Ugh. Okay. Yeah, so things are starting to lose a handle on this. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if it's worth rewinding it. Oh, you do have the. I forgot you had the roof cleaner. Well. Oh. You're gonna save that for another wave. Nice. Yeah, I dig it up right now. You know, get rid of those guys. Or you could save it. Yeah, save it for maybe. Wow. Okay. Okay. Cleaner strats. How about that, boys? Roof cleaner strats are real. No mistake about it. I like this too, letting that guy go. I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't. It was hard to tell whether you were sort of deliberately letting some of them go, or you know whether it was. Yeah, huh. And you might not get any drops, or will you get drops in the final wave? I forget how roof cleaners work in relation to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now you have a ton of firepower for the final wave too. That's nice. Nope, they do. Yeah. Berries. That was. Oh, you did get all of those. I figured you would. Good final wave. Nice. Yeah, there was that one hiccup, like right before you use the lawnmower in that row that I think with a cherry and you know. You ended up losing a chomp or two that you really didn't have to. I think those would have been worth using. Yeah, I'd say that like there was like a wave or two there, like maybe like the 12th and 13th waves, something like that. That were really the only mistakes there that I saw. But yeah, roof cleaner strat is the only strat. You know? Definitely probably saved you a cherry or two. I would, in comparison to all of all those on. Yeah, 80% of the time, yeah, you don't have the roof cleaner. You really can't rely on it. For me, I swear it's more than that. So with this one, again, I usually put the squash back here. I don't even think it's worth it. The sun is so tight at the beginning level, I don't think it's worth the extra 25 sun to do this. And then sometimes that means then that if you kill this zombie faster, then the third row goes faster and you can't get that early glue. So I actually don't like this squash placement at all. Choice here, you have. Yeah, I was worried about that. Oh boy, yeah, I don't like that. because you're not really going to be able to garlic this guy, so now you're going to have to wait for the full cooldown of the squash. I would continue planting sun for sure, though, right here. No need to hold back on your sun production. So, just to wake up a gloom doesn't... The reason I don't like that is because now you're sort of running out of spots to plant your sunflower. It might have just been worth the squash there. Yeah, I'd say for me it's less than 10%. I would say that I get the... Oh, wow. No. Times it worked. Still say I've not been thrilled. I would squash. I'd probably squash that. Save the squash for that. Honestly, you could have planted a sunflower right here. It's not like this spot's that valuable for... That way you would get your 50. Especially having the roof cleaners early, too. I would have squashed this. Ooh, well, okay. That's what I was gonna say. Sometimes it's worth waiting for the squash. I might honestly have... Although you're actually... Yeah, no, that's kind of a tough one. I was gonna say... Oh, I thought you were gonna actually lose. It's a little bit better to do these first few rows 2 and 4, or even 1 and 5 than it is. Like, this middle row is, like, super powered at this point. So, I really, I would probably squash this guy. Again, be aggressive with these squashes. It's worth digging up the 50 gold for the garlic and then just to get the 50% rule about maybe seconds faster for those. It's obviously not worth it for a regular zombie, only for a bonehead, but probably squash this guy. Well, you do have 3 glooms against him. So, alright, good decision not to. You can maybe save it for the 9th. Yeah, be patient about the squash. You're right. I think it's worth it on the 9th wave, and then on the 11th wave. I think some of those mistakes in the early part of the level could, you know, maybe cost you a little bit, but I don't think that this... Oh, well, alright. Wow, that was a great final wave. Alright, I stand corrected. So, although I had some criticisms about the first flag, and I stand by those criticisms, it did end up working out, but I really think the huge difference there was the roof cleaner clearing out the bonehead. I think you would have been utterly effed if you didn't have the roof. And, you know, maybe you were relying on that, and I honestly just wasn't paying attention to it. So that's one example of, like, it definitely worked out and you played it well, but it would be something that I would not rely on too much. So, again, I would be hesitant about placing some of the sunflowers in the 3rd column, because sometimes you really do need that spot for... Again, I don't like the more aggressive squash here. You're already, like, so close to 30 seconds by the time that he gets there that it's too expensive. You really can't afford that 25 sun this early if you want to try to get that gloom up as fast as possible. Close. You only have 7 sunflowers, though. What we've been doing is actually putting the, using the coffee bean here first, save that little bit of time, although this guy was so slow that I actually think better to have 8 sunflowers before your first gloom, but again, sometimes you don't have that choice. But again, I would definitely, nick. I did some things. So I can't wait to see YMB. Sometimes the risk pays off, and other times get burned for it. So, well, we've all been there, so it's really nice. Okay, so far. Not worth it to take the risk. I think you might be right. You know, there's obviously there's calculated risks too, right? Sometimes, you know, you kind of gamble on something a little bit, but if the loss is not that significant, you know, then certainly it can be worth it. Definitely squash this guy. Nice. This was a decent first flag. You know, they were kind of kind that the third zombie that they gave you was relatively slow, but I think it's done okay. I'd just be ready. Hopefully you know, what I start doing is I do start trying to protect my glooms a little bit, like putting some flower pots behind there. Even though this is technically better from like a, you know, efficiency standpoint, I just, you know, I always worry about losing. Worry a little bit about losing. But just behind. I try to block that guy. I'm actually a little worried you're gonna... Okay, you did. Good call. You wouldn't have lost him, but it would have been... And I am worried about the protection. I guess you do have the Doom that, in theory, you like to get punchies on. Like, you know, these ones on the side here are kind of like, eh. Yeah, I'd probably Doom... Yeah. So again, this is what I'm talking about, trying to protect them. Yep, that's, yep. That's going to be a bit costly. So again, at the very least, having a flower pot behind here to use a squash if you have to, or just using one of your Dooms as soon as you see that one of your get eaten. I think that would have helped a lot for this level. Sure. Probably squash him. Now I would use the that guy. Yep. Oh, the top one actually might have technically been better, given that, you know, that row was a little. Again, it's better to be more in the 435, 440 time frame here. So obviously losing your gloom wasn't great, but splatter zombies don't worry me unless there's only one or two glooms affecting them. If you have three like that, then it's yeah, the gloom spawns faster, so it's worth it. I agree. I don't think I've gotten roof cleaner in like 6 months or something. Especially early roof cleaners. Yes. I've gotten roof cleaners on like 5.9, or I would have had them for 5.10 one time if you could actually go and buy something at 5.10. A lot of vaulters. This is kind of slowing you down a little bit too. I'd actually squash this. Oof. Probably not worth the squash at this point. Honestly, you know, your firepower I think is good enough at this point that it would have been better to have a squash for maybe the 9th wave. What I also would have done is not planted planted the Doom right there. Yeah, just because I knew there was a chance. Although it actually ended. Oh shit. Oh wow, I miscounted. Well, there you go. That was the play. Hopefully the last wave doesn't mess you up or anything. Pretty good position. You did have some bad luck losing 2 of the gloom, but I think some of that could have been prevented and helped maybe save a little bit of time on this level. I mean, you're up against a pretty decent... Oh, that thing goes... 17 seconds lost. That's not the best. A 650 time is like okay. But better to go for like 635 or 6. Save that gloom. Maybe use squashes a little. But considering the hand you were dealt, it wasn't. 5-8. All right. Curious to see which of the Gargantuar strats you're gonna go. Other than no plan. Okay, yeah. Fell on my ass. Alright. Cormac needs to stay hydrated for these sorts of things. Okay, this is good. Ooh, this guy's a little fast. I would actually plant a flower pot here, because I think it's worth slowing him down enough that, you know, even though you're... Okay. I think you got this. I was a little worried about his speed. That wasn't... Warback chair. Far so good in this level. I am curious whether you're going to PB on this. As I mentioned, I have not watched this video through, so it would be very interesting if you did on this. Although I said you probably would have submitted it, I think. But... Probably would have planted one more sunflower here before worrying too much about that gloom. Yeah, Warmech chair. That's the correct spelling line. Very sad when I have to get rid of this chair. It is getting a little old. Ooh, it's just the garlic last. I looked it up once upon a time. It's fairly long. You almost never lose garlic on any of the levels in any percent. You theoretically can in like some of the endless levels if you keep the garlic up for like many flags, but you almost never. It's almost never a problem. I've maybe had to replace a garlic once or twice, but yeah, it's not. God, this is so scary. Oh, this is effing scary. Oh no. Oh no. Ooh, is this too late? Oh shit, is that gonna get through? Ooh, what a save. Okay. Okay. So, if he had appeared in any other row, I don't think that Doom would have hit. Ooh. God, that was so scary. I mean, you did end up losing a Gloom, but honestly, I think it was probably fine. You know, the firepower isn't, like, really the problem on this level. Wow. Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to lose that Gloom, too. Oh, this has been, like, the most anxiety-producing level of the entire run, and I'm not even the one playing it. Wait till you at least did a decent... Ugh. Oh, boy. Now, luckily you're getting close-ish to the end of the level, and you do have that Doom as a backup, so I actually think this is probably going to be okay. But, then, been a very scary level. You're certainly not going to be saving 26 seconds. That I am willing to predict with confidence. Doom up. I would put that Doom like right in the middle, like right away. Like Okay, you might still be. I think the bottom row it's not. Yep, so definitely should have put that Doom there, you know, right in that middle spot much. And just use the other one as your backup and clear. So somehow you kind of salvaged this level-ish, although I wouldn't say a 5:20 something time is, you know, to be looked up for, but considering what happened, I thought you reacted well to it. It's just, you know, there were probably some preventable mistakes, you know, like not saving the bloom, and then like that whole chaos with the Gargantuar. If you're gonna use that strat, try to get the Gargantuar like as fast as you can, so that you're sure that the imp stays in the 6th row, because that was that was tough. I do remember the first 100%. We had a nice long 9-hour run, and I was like, I can get this under 9 hours. I also took like 3 deaths, and like the strategies hadn't been flushed out, the minigame strategies hadn't been flushed out. So I actually think if I played 100%, my puzzles time was like 25 minutes. Or 23 minutes or something like that. It was my first ever puzzles attempt on stream. The splitting is done manually. Yep, we don't have an auto splitter. Ooh, 5-9. Okay. All right, I like this. Using the roof cleaners to their intended purpose. Save the squash, which is nice. Good. Yep. So there's no community agreement on exactly where to split, but MadWasp and I split on the same time, which is on the bass note after the jingle at the end of the. So there's no rules other than you may buy it if you wish to. So there's a little bit of a trade-off in the sense of you know, it does take you time to go back to the screen and buy the rake and do all that, but the rake almost always saves time. Basically, the rules of thumb are you can buy any items that you want that you can afford. So there's really not a lot of restrictions with the item buy. So that's it. Welcome, by the way, a beef. Glad to have you. Yeah, so we do require a fresh file from start, so that's good. Yep. We do have a separate New Game Plus category that would allow you to, after you beat the game once, the second playthrough the game is different. It does allow for that. All right, so the roof cleaner strats pay off. A sub 3 minute first flag is really good. Really good. And that's not even including the fact that obviously you have the magnet and you have all that stuff, so, and you're going to have your 3rd gloom. So this level, I have a feeling, is going to be really strong. I do remember when you submitted this to me, you're like, yeah, I used the roof cleaners on 5-9, but in fairness, you used the roof cleaners correctly. So I think that's worthy of praise. If you get the roof cleaners, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So yeah, so I think you've played this very, very well, considering you know, considering, you know, that was the position dealt with. So I am curious whether this is going to be a gold split, and then how Zomboss is going to that would be good. Very lucky that guy. I like this Doom placement too. This will be a good backup if you get it. It would have been a little bit better technically to put the Doom in the 4th row, because the Gargantuars usually appear. They only appear in rows 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that might have technically been a little bit better. But you honestly have another Doom good plan now as well. So I wouldn't probably squash that guy. Oh, Wasp, did I tell you that I had to, nice, great Doom there. That was perfect timing. You waited till he was just within. It replaces Plague. That's funny. Yep. No, so I am not playing this. This is our very. I was gonna say I think you might actually. Yeah, those Jack in the Boxes actually have a deceptive number of hit points. So one gloom alone is not necessarily enough to go with it. I actually kind of like this. I like that magnet placement. I actually think that's okay. I think that's good. I would only do it in one of the middle rows, I think. Just again, if you get like a couple kind of running towards the middle all right in a row and stuff. But good. You still have enough sunflowers. You still have your 15 sunflowers. So you did a great job kind of recovering from that perspective. So this has maybe been the best level I think you've played in the run. 5-6 was a good time, but you maybe got a little bit of a break by having the lawnmowers. But this has been obviously both. It was nice having the roof mowers, but the execution has been very, very strong in this level. So I've loved the doom placements, the magnets, just the backups. I hope you don't lose a gloom. It doesn't. Ah, damn it! You already had a loop. Actually, may not matter because we finally reached. I would have definitely. I would have. Okay. Chalk that up to a mistake. Yeah, just be confident. Use the Doom if you're going to use the Doom, and don't use it if you're not going to use it. I would squash him right away. Beautiful. Yeah, 629 is excellent. I do think a 16 time is possible on this level with roof cleaners, but that was quite excellent. Very good.
All right, here we go. It's either to PB or not to PB. A 3-cycle would guarantee one, but I really hope I don't get that because a 3-cycle is a pain in the ass to compare against. But my 4-cycle is also really good in my PB, so I don't know. It all comes down to this.
It does all come down to this. So I would say, I would guess it's about 50-50 at this point. I don't know what's going to happen in this run, whether he's going to PB or not, so this is actually very exciting for me. But this is good. The fact that you have 40 seconds to save and you have a 15-second lead is encouraging, but definitely doesn't guarantee anything. You've gotten very mediocre plants to start so far. So, yeah. A1 has the 612. I knew he had a 16. Yeah, he had like a very low 6 time, which is ridiculous. I forget where my gold is there. It's not that great. It's probably somewhere around what Wasp's is. Might have honestly let this one go and just. Okay. You in theory could have used another jalapeno, but you also don't have like a lot of firepower. So you're kind of like, even though you're slowing down Zomboss, which is good, like, it's just, you're not doing it with a lot of firepower, so I honestly might have saved some of these ice shrooms to have a little bit more firepower. Just sort of focused on a couple of jalapenos, tried to move on a little bit. You've not gotten great plants so far. I will give you that. That is a lot. Although he's having some fast cycles. That's good. I technically, well, it's always tough. You could argue that you could use the jalapeno in this column instead because there's so much firepower there that getting this to be able to damage Zomboss sooner is actually, I definitely would have used it now. This is fine. This isn't too bad. Your plant RNG is getting a little bit better. It is going to be very close. I certainly don't think this is going to be a gold. There's no way this is going to be a cycle. But oh god, it's going to be really close. Hey, Super, what's going on? What the heck is going on? Yep. Welcome to WarmeCritic number 2. TheMadWasp is on the hot seat. He's been taking a real beating from me. I'm so cruel to him the entire time. But we're excited. He's right on the brink of a possible PB. So Wow, these are fast cycles. So even though it's not great, I would still say that there's hope of a relatively fast 4 cycle for this one. Although getting these flower pots has not been great. I might have saved, yeah. Oh shit. Oh, nothing but flower pots. Oh god. Oh god. Oh yeah, the YouTube thing was cool to see. I was really honored to be featured in Jonas's channel. I never thought I'd make it that far, and honestly, in some ways, that was actually one of the biggest saves I've ever had in any of my runs. So I'm not 100% sure how they found it, but you know, like, I mean, it was from a while ago too. It was like a couple months ago. So maybe they've sort of been holding on to some runs, or somebody submitted it to their channel before them. I did not submit it. I did not. So this was it was really cool to see. That was kind of like an honor this morning. Sure. We actually got a viewer or two that said that they found this channel from Jonas's channel. So that's so I think that's really cool. Right, so about this run, not looking happy to me at the moment. So yeah, Jonas, if you're watching, thank you very much for the feature. I really do. Yeah, I would have used the ice shroom there, so I think that makes sense. Like, you have to go for broke at this point because you know that, you know, you're not going to get another shot. You know, that basically it's do or die when it comes to the PB. Ooh, did you get just, I'd leave it. Leave it. This is good. Yeah. Oh, one more jalapeno, you would have PB'd. You're not going to PB, but you could kill him in this. Oh, man. Oh, man, that's a heartbreaker. Oh, that's rough. That is rough. Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh, no. 1.5 seconds. No. No. Oh, God. Oh, well. What an ending. This was an epic ending to a run that was very good. So I'd say, like, overall there were really no disastrous mistakes, and I'm actually amazed that you were able to salvage a 4 cycle out of this Zomboss. I think that was very, very good. So going back, I tried to make like a couple of notes along the way. So in terms of just like trying to simplify it to like one thing per level, the day levels overall were very good. 1.8 was bad. The only thing that I would change with the day levels is I do really recommend that you line up all of your first sunflowers like in the same row, particularly when you have the potato mine. Like, it's really not that costly to use the potato mine if you ever have to, and it guaranteed, like, I think there was maybe one level in the entire run where you didn't have one of your sunflowers in a level where you let the initial zombie go, and like that I think really it really hurts. Like, it's really not super great. So that would be the one thing I would change about the day levels. 1.8 had some other problems. You had a mistake with a chomper that I really disagree with placement, and it sort of caught you, set you really far behind. I sort of that. So I check out 1.8. In hindsight, 1.9 though was very good. I thought you played 1.9 very well. Ended up with a good time. The night levels, really the only major feedback that I had was that it's better to put your initial puff shrooms in the 8th column if there is a grave in the 7th column. You'll see a couple instances there where you basically you waited and you put in the 6th column, and like it means that basically like you're killing that zombie about 5 seconds slower than you otherwise would have. So that would be one thing I would change there. You were also a little bit unprepared for the final wave on 2-3. I called out a couple of things that you could have done in 2-3 that I think collectively could have saved about 20 seconds or maybe more. And then I think maybe you got a little bit flustered on the final wave. So again, hard to criticize that because that's going to happen sometimes. So I pay attention to 2-3. But that said, 2.9 was excellent. That was probably one of your top 5 levels, I would say, in the run. That was pretty good. So in terms of the pool levels, the major criticism that I would have would be that I think in most of the levels you planted too many lily pads early in the level, such that it was taking away from sunflowers or repeaters or instants that you could have used a little bit earlier. And then other times you had some problems, like then not having enough lily pads in the pool later in the level. So it was like sort of this like ironic twist. And there may be so I would say pay attention to not planting quite as many lily pads early in those levels, and instead getting all of the sun on land, and then sort of once you get maybe to like 12 sunflowers or so, 13, then starting to plant a couple of lily pads in the pool, particularly on levels where you have the tangle kelp and you really don't need any offensive plants at all in the pool whatsoever. So I try to see if you can tweak that around a little bit too. There were also a couple of cherry placements, both in the final waves and in the middle of levels, that I thought were like a little bit questionable. Those I'd say were only very minor time saves. There was only one that I think you really misplaced the cherry. So I kind of turned back to that. Oh yes, that's the other thing, people. Selfishly, once we get to 500 followers, my wife, Mrs. Warmek, is going to attempt this category any percent. So if you would consider giving the channel a follow, that would be great. We have gotten a couple new followers today, so I really do appreciate that. All the support that we've gotten throughout the day, that really does mean a lot. But when we get to 500 followers, we do have a very, very special stream coming up. So that's great. Getting back to the rest of the feedback, the only major feedback I have for the fog levels are, again, you were here for that piece of it, but the doom placement, it's really on almost every single level, except if there's truly disaster that strikes. You should be planting the doom in the third column on or the eighth column in the third row. There were just, I think you missed almost every single one of your doom. And that, like, I really feel like collectively that was somewhere between 30 seconds to a minute of something that with just that change alone, I actually think you'd be able to PB if you got a run with similar RNG to this. I think that was maybe the single biggest set of mistakes, single biggest like large collective mistake that I saw overall in the run. So that's great. Yeah, she'll make her own speedrun.com account as well, because I mean, hey, it's her run. You know, that'll be it. And then on the roof levels, again, nothing too bad. I would say there were a couple of times where you planted a flower pot and then a squash, where I think you're better off just planting the squash right in the third column and trying to save that sun for something later on. Again, there were also a couple instances where you lost a gloom that I think you could have prevented, and then maybe just trying to slightly better optimize, make sure that your squash is a little bit more in the second flags, but. So again, I'd say in terms of the negative feedback, that was all the things that I mentioned. In terms of the positive feedback, the things that I thought were very strong about the run were, one, you're very, very good at planting your plants quickly. And that's something that we were saying like could be sort of undervalued over the course of the run, that like for every 10th of a second that you can plant, particularly a sunflower, more quickly, like regularly do that, over the course of the run, right, you got to figure we're planting hundreds of sunflowers, so you're very good about planting your plants, getting them on the board very quickly. With one or two exceptions, I don't think you had many misplants at all too. So I'd say continue to be aggressive in how quickly you plant the plants, because that was definitely a strength of the run. You were very good about picking your plants very quickly. There was maybe only one exception on like 8. I saw you got like a little turned around, and then on other level as well. But the picking of your plants was quite excellent. I also think you did a good job relatively of recovering from your mistakes. Those were definitely, like, in cases where things sort of started to get out of control. There were no levels that, like, there were maybe 2 levels that you lost like 30 seconds on, but so and obviously there was like the mistake in 4-9 where you just picked the wrong plant. So I'm not like, I'm not going to harp on that. But you did a pretty good job of recovering from your mistakes when there were some. It just, maybe a couple of instances where like you could have maybe done a little bit of a better job of sort of balancing like the current priorities versus like trying to like, I think it happens to all of us, and me especially, kind of getting a little flustered when. So those were all the things that I think you did really well. A couple of auto scrollers where maybe I would have held off on planting a couple of plants to maybe help increase the probability of getting a plant you actually want. The example that I was thinking of were the walnuts on 310. I think you shouldn't have planted walnuts as you did. That was probably a waste. And ultimately, maybe theoretically could have cost you a little bit in 310. But again, some of those are more like very small types of things that are necessary. But other than that, this was a really good run. Any run that's under 335 is really excellent. So I don't want you to feel like all this criticism is obviously it's in no way personal, and it's really just, sort of with hopes that you're sort of like, oh yeah, like I do kind of do that, or oh yeah, maybe I do see WarmeX point here, and maybe you disagree with me on some of the feedback, and that's totally okay too. Again, the purpose of this is just to help not only yourself but myself sort of be like, oh, there's things here that MadWasp did that, oh, that was kind of cool, and I tried to point a few of those out as well. So yeah, I got to derust and start running again too. I've been neglecting any percent for a while now. That's a bit of a problem, but anyway, to the rest of you, that's all I have to say for MadWasp. You can message me either personally on Twitch or on Discord, our Discord channel. If if you have any questions about the run, but if you'd like your own WarmeCritic, I'm going to try to do about one of these per month until we've done just about all of the runners. And then again, if there's a runner that has like significant improvement, one WarmeCritic to another, we can take a look at that too. But I do have one more person signed up, probably for some time in December. But other than that, if you're interested in kind of having some run, feel free to submit. The only thing I do ask is if there's not like, if your voice isn't like if you're not talking too much during the run, just because it can then be difficult for me to like try to talk over you, but also hear like the audio cues. So I thought Wasp's submission was really great. We had a couple places where his voice showed up, but not too much. So it was very easy for me to sort of like talk over the action. The WarmeCritic does not need to be a PB. It doesn't need to be your best run. It just needs to be a run where you're like, hey, I thought this went well, but like, were there some things that I could have improved, or do I have some bad habits that I need to get rid of? That's sort of the purpose of this series. So yeah, definitely, yeah, super, yeah. I'd say as soon as you're kind of a couple of runs in, maybe when you get to that point, and maybe when you start to feel like you're plateauing at a certain point. But I was very impressed with your first run too, so I think that's but with those very early runs, a lot of the criticism is going to be like, pick the right plants, or learn to pick the plants faster at the beginning of the level, or like those sorts of things that aren't maybe quite as helpful. But you're sort of in an interesting position that you've seen so many runs that a lot of that stuff I actually thought went really, really well in your run. Like your decision making, I thought was much better than you would see for the average first time runner. So you're sort of like in a yeah, good. Yeah, I have a little bit more time in December coming up too, so I should be able to commit to doing probably having both weekend days. I am going to be on again tomorrow, and having both weekend days coming up. Really, it should be for the rest of the month. I don't have too many days off, so I won't be able to do a lot of like early morning weekday streams. I do have some time later on when I get home from work, usually 5 or 6. Usually once or maybe twice a week. But again, thank you all for the new follows. We got a bunch of new followers today. I really appreciate it. Thanks again to Jonas for the for on the channel. I'll try to link. I can right here. If you don't want to see my one moment of fame, it right there. Yeah, and again, thank you to MadWasp for submitting this. Again, it's always like, it is tough to like kind of go up, and sort of have someone kind of provide that feedback for you too. But I really truly believe that's how we become better, not just at speedrunning, but at anything. Sometimes having a coach, and I'm far from the greatest player, but I've always sort of enjoyed like tutoring and coaching and that. And it's easier. It's always easier to like sit here and be like, oh, you should have done this, or you would have done this. But so that's why I think sort of these like live runs in a run that I haven't seen before is very valuable, because that way I can sort of talk about my thought process without needing to talk about like playing and stuff. They're very valuable. Anyway, thank you all for the new followers. Definitely check out MadWasp and his channel. He does a lot of different categories for PvP, a lot of different runs out there, so you're never bored with the content as long as you love PvP. Until then, have yourselves a great rest of your days. Good Saturday for everybody else, and I'll see you again tomorrow. I'll probably be on with either an any percent, or maybe a little more realistically, I'm on a slightly tighter schedule tomorrow. Might be able to get back to some puzzles in about 2 weeks. Gotta get back to them. All right, thanks, Super. I really do appreciate it. No, I do appreciate it. Again, I do. Again, as a community, the community's success is my success, and I truly believe, like, whether someone gets into a game done quick, or gets featured on a channel, or speed gaming, or whatever it is that we do, it's representative of the community's success. Like I don't think we ever would have seen runs in the 30s if it was collective efforts of everybody's strategy, and really everybody's provided some level of insight or tweaks to what we do, or and the contributions just really makes having that community feel just like I think helps keep all of our motivation high when it comes to this game. Yeah, we'll have PVC 3 before we know it, and who knows what that'll bring. But yeah, that'll be good. And in the meantime, everyone, take care. Thanks again, Wasp, for letting me do this. I hope it was valuable to you. Have yourselves a good day, everyone.